Let's try that again. It is time to commence this special session of the Caddo Parish School Board to deal with one agenda item before we go into executive session here in a few minutes. Ms. Tharp from District 8 is not able to attend today, so I'm going to take the liberty to voice our implication and our Pledge of Allegiance. If you would please stand if you're able. Gracious God in heaven, we are truly thankful for this occasion that brings us here together today to discuss important matters that affect every stakeholder in our Caddo Parish school system. We ask your blessing upon us as we seek your wisdom in all that we do. We ask all this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Board members, if you would please respond to the roll call. There we go. All right. Post our attendance and we'll move right along.
That's for the next.
Okay, all right, just making sure. Now is our time to call upon any visitors who may be here to speak. I don't have any names. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? On the special session agenda item? Apparently not. Okay. I do want to recognize one particular visitor, Jeff Fielder, the CEO of Willis Knighton Health Systems, is there on the second row, and we're glad to have your attendance. If I did not do that, my wife, being an employee of Willis Knighton, would never forgive me. So, all right. We are moving right along on this special session to item 1.05, the consideration to increase the daily rate of pay for substitute secretaries, office clerks, and teachers. I'm going to call upon our superintendent, Dr. Lamar Gorey, to delineate this agenda item.
We need to have a motion.
All right. Barry Rochelle, please.
Okay. Move to approve the daily rate of pay for substitute secretaries, substitute office clerks, and substitute teachers as recommended by staff and submitted in the electronic mailout.
And you have that in front of you, board members. Mr. Little?
We need a,
Mr. Little?
I was going to speak to the item itself.
Okay, we got a second from...
Second.
Okay. All right, did you want to speak to that, Mr. Rochelle?
it sounded like you wanted Dr. Gorey to speak, and if he'd like to speak first, I'll wait till he speaks.
All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, as well as Board Member Rochelle. What I would tell you is that this action, and thank the board for receiving this in a speedy fashion as we prepare to receive children tomorrow in our K-8 schools. But as we looked at things that are going on and we look at how do we remain competitive throughout our region and more specifically within our neighboring districts, it was necessary for staff to look at that rate at which we're paying substitute teachers. I've stressed on several occasions that the thing that is definitely keeping us up at night is, and that's not just within Caddo Parish, but within the field of education, is finding teachers to teach. But the substitute problem is, again, an issue across all school systems. And again, the purpose of this today is to continue to be competitive as we compete with neighboring districts for those substitute teachers. And we do believe that these new increases from a salary perspective will make us competitive.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Reed. Now, Mr. Rochelle, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I'm just going to say that I've had conversation, actually through email, with Dr. Goree concerning this, as this does have to do with budgetary, and it's quite a bit of money. But I believe through our conversations through email, he's satisfied me that the funds are appropriately there. With that in mind, I would be remiss if I didn't share that our value is in our people and it's in our students.
Absolutely.
And as we look at this and we do this, we have to invest in our people. We have to invest in finding new ones. We have to invest in especially the substitute teachers, of taking those under our wing and moving them up through, hopefully through the ranks, to become certified teachers at some point in time, which would be superb. But doing this, I'm just thinking of the budget in years coming ahead is, again, our value is in our people and not in buildings and not in stuff. And I do believe that we will be coming to a point, I think we've been at that point, but it's a continuing issue that we're going to have to wrestle with. We can't just keep 3 old cars in the driveway trying to figure out which one's going to start, hoping one of them will at some point in time. We need to go through that process and just keep moving forward and not throwing money. I hate to say throwing money away into buildings, but that's something that we will continue to have to deal with. But again, our value is in our teachers and in our staff and in our employees. I think this is marvelous, and it has my wholehearted support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rochelle. Mr. Little.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Sorry, we jumped the gun here. Before you go, Mr. Little, we're going to ask Ms. Bell, since she seconded the motion,
That most certainly
to
did.
voice her
And I am
comments.
excited. When this came through my email, I'm excited because every day I'm talking to someone who just, one thing about it, we have a lot of 4-year college degrees, but they can't pass the test, the test. And it's a lot of, but this money look good. I think we're gonna be able to try to help to alleviate a lot of the people that's not, that's regular substitute teachers, that now we maybe get some really ones with the degrees and all. And only thing I'm wishing that they would do away with the practice and bring our teachers, they go to school 4 years, they do the student teaching, everything, then you come back and let a test stop you, a test, and that you learn. So I agree with Barry. I am so happy that we're going up, and I think Dr. Goree did a good thing. I like this, okay?
Thank you, Ms.
All
Bell.
right.
Now, Mr. Little.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to, first of all, share my support of this in general terms, but I do so cautiously because if I recall our most recent budget session, if you sift through all of the numbers there, we were more or less $25 million in deficit if it were not for federal COVID funds. And here we are adding another $2 million thing to our budget. So I always think of terms of seesaw effect. If we're increasing spend in another area, we have to, as a matter of fiscal responsibility, reduce our spending in another area. We've got to find a place to do that. And I trust staff, but I would hope that we have a plan in place so that this can be a sustainable program. My second thought on this is, I think this is great, but my second thought is we can do more in some areas, because one concern that teachers have brought to me is in the absence of substitute teachers, many teachers are stepping into other classrooms and serving as de facto substitute teachers, but they're not getting recognized for it. It's impacting their classroom performance, and it's impacting their quality of work, but they are being tasked with taking attendance, with monitoring other children, and balancing their own class. And I know we've talked about this in other areas, but I would love to see this expanded for current staff. Right.
we can explore it.
One thing I'll add to that is last year, we did compensate educators that went in and actually covered classes. And, speaking as a career educator, that's something that's happened since the beginning of time. If this teacher's out, we divide the kids up and kind of divide and conquer. As we go into this school year too, why this is very important is because we are no longer compensating those persons for their period. So our goal is to find the substitute so that those teachers can devote, if not all their time, as much as humanly possible to the children that they're actually assigned to teach. What I will do is agree with you, and I want to agree with Mr. Rochelle and Ms. Bell as well, from the perspective that our people are our most precious asset. And I do think that when you look at things such as this pay initiative here, this is a number one priority. And as we work through the next, what's the 4 summers, 3 school years, to the end of the COVID dollars, you are correct. There will be a need to make drastic decisions to make sure that our priorities drive what we're doing as a budget. So those conversations, and I've said that several times at the Horseshoe, those are coming. Those challenging conversations, especially as we continue to look at what student population does in our community. One of the main reasons we did a 3-year versus 5-year strategic plan is because we know that strategic priorities will probably need to be adjusted sooner than later based on this windfall of COVID dollars. And I hate to even call it a windfall, but the COVID dollars going away. So
Yeah,
we'll have to go back to the table.
And that's why I would offer tentative support. I mean, I think this is a fantastic idea, and it needs to be done.
We can pay for it today.
We can pay for it today, but, it's like when you're in college and you buy a big screen TV, can you pay for cable in 3 months? You've got, if anybody uses
Well,
cable anymore.
what I will do, if it's any insurance, Mr. Howard is reminding us at every executive table that this is coming to an end and really holding us accountable as we support board in making some of those challenging decisions that we'll come back for.
But this is not a budget neutral item. We are not making cuts in other areas.
So what I will tell you is that
Could I get-
it's budget neutral in the respect that, if you'll remember, we have budgeted to hire a certain number of teachers, okay? If we don't find those teachers, there are resources there that are available that will help to offset some of this cost. So no, it's not budget neutral, but we do believe that as we go through the year, based on some of the trends that we've seen, whether you're looking at sales tax or other items, we will be able to cover $2 million. It is a lot of money. I'm not, not saying it's not, but it's $2 million out of a $617 million budget. So I do think it's manageable that we can cover this.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Before we have our other board members speak, I want to weigh in on this. I think our substitute pay has been needed to be upgraded for quite a while. It's been pretty meager for too long. I know some other neighboring school systems have done similar measures in recent days. I don't want to be seen as a knee-jerk reaction. However, you can't ignore that either. If we're going to retain teachers and attract subs and because we're in sore need of subs. So that being said, we're going to call on Mr. Dixon now to weigh in.
I'm probably gonna sound like a broken record because everybody's saying the same, but I do have a different twist. I do understand, I was having this conversation today, the challenges that businesses have in the workforce, period. Every industry is struggling, which has driven up inflation because of supply chain issues, and I'd put money on it, the fact that a lot of those issues are because companies don't have the people to work. And so I understand and applaud us trying to be competitive in this marketplace, one. Number two, understanding that this time last year, gas wasn't almost $4 a gallon. And the prices of everything in the store wasn't what it was last year. So I think it's in keeping with what's happening in the marketplace. And like my colleagues, I am concerned that, this will be a fixed cost going forward, and with and figuring out how to do that. But I do understand too, as Dr. Gorey, Superintendent Gorey says, that us knowing what's down the road, and if we all make it back in January, I mean, there's going to be some conversation we're going to have and some decisions we're going to have to make about a whole lot of different things that's not going to be popular, but going to be expedient.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Dr. Dozart.
Thank you, President Nations. I just want to say, as a teacher, I sometimes would frown up when the principal would ask me to come and take over for what a substitute teacher when another teacher was absent. I did not understand the value of what a substitute teacher was until after I had retired. I had not worked as a substitute teacher in Caddo before I retired. But once I retired, I started working as a substitute teacher. And my experience as a substitute teacher then, I had sympathy for the substitute teachers. Not only did they not, some of them did not know what to do, and the ones who were with me at different schools, I subbed at about 10 or 12 schools during my little time. And in that little time, they hired me as a full-time or long-term substitute teacher. Some of them did not even go by whatever the plan was that the regular teacher had. They did not use that. And some of them didn't know how to discipline the students. Some of them didn't know the teaching skills. And it's because I was an experienced teacher, I was not that much of an expertise over them. But we needed substitute teachers. And we needed them badly because some teachers were really having emergencies. Some of them were ill and other types of emergencies. And so we still need substitute. I feel like this is going to be good for having substitute teachers increase and trying to get more substitute teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dozart. Mr. Ryle.
Call for the question.
Okay.
Did he get a second?
Okay, Mr. Mel.
Second.
Okay. All right. That being said, we have to deal with that.
You didn't let me talk.
Sorry. That's the rules.
It may not. Let's see the answer.
All right. Well, once that comes up on your screen, please vote for the call to the question. Or not. I believe that passes, so now it's time for the actual vote on the agenda item of consideration to increase the daily rate of pay for substitute teachers, office clerks, and teachers. Motion has been made and seconded. Please vote. Very good. Our constituents will be happy. The ones I've talked to anyway. All right. I would consider a motion, Mr. Dixon, to adjourn this special session.
As I adjourn, I thought about something.
Okay.
You gonna have to assign somebody to your role, Mr. Rao, after you leave.
We gotta train some.
Your role is important.
I got you.
I move that we adjourn.
As well you should. Mr. Rochelle.
I second the motion.
Okay.
To
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor? I think a verbal assent will be sufficient maybe for that. Go ahead and vote, yeah. All right. We're going to slide, unless there's some objections, we're going to slide right into the executive committee work session. Pardon?
She got to change meeting. Give her 1 second.
Okay, sure. Mr. Rochelle.
I'd like to take this moment that, Mr. Fielder, I've never met you before in my life, so I don't know who you are, but I know what y'all do, and y'all help our school district out a ton. And personally, I think that we all owe you a round of applause, and all of your staff everybody with Willis-Knighton Facilities, is we owe y'all a huge applause for everything that y'all do for our students and our schools. We really do appreciate it. We're very grateful for the help.
All right, two presentations.
Is this your last presentation?
Oh, it is, huh?
I'm missing you already.
Me too.
Ready? Okay, very good. We have already had our invocation and our pledge of allegiance, but however, we do need to have a roll call for this particular work session, so if you would please respond to that. Just got to make sure you switch meetings. There we go. Yeah, you gotta switch meetings, go to, yeah. There we go. Okay. All right, we have a couple of presentations today. I'm going to call on Dr. Gorey to call upon Ms. McDonald to introduce those presentations.
All right, I'd like to at this time take this privilege to invite our Director of Communications, Ms. Charnay McDonald, to make her contribution to Caddo Schools. Come on, Charnay.
All right, thank you, Dr. Gorey, President Nations, and our board members, community. Thank you all for being here on the eve of our first day of school for the 2022-2023 school year. So we have two presentations today from our community. Our first presentation will be from our partners at Willis-Knighton. The CEO of Willis-Knighton, Jeff Fielder, is here, along with Amy Suddeth, and she is the Director of Physical Medicine and Rehab. And they will share about a proposal that will benefit our high schools by providing improvement of athletic facilities and opportunities for sports medicine services. And following that will be our friends from the Louisiana Film Prize to discuss the creative opportunities that they've provided to our students in the film industry through their special program and competition, Film Prize Junior. So at this time, we'll have Mr. Jeff Fielder and Amy Suddeth, if you will join us at the podium.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, Mr. Rochelle. We're always looking for ways that we can partner with the school board and do what we can to help out the Caddo Parish schools. Thank you very much for that. As was introduced, my name is Jeff Fielder. I'm President and CEO of the Willis-Knighton Health System. Amy Suddeth is here with me today, Director of our Physical Medicine and Rehab Program, which also contains our Sports Medicine Program, and that's what we're here to talk to you about today. Over the last 15 years, Willis-Knighton has developed an extremely strong relationship with several Caddo Parish schools by providing sports medicine coverage to their student athletes. And I'll say, I'm a little bit prejudiced, but the continuity of care that Willis-Knighton physicians and athletic trainers provide the students in Caddo Parish is unmatched in our community. Several weeks ago, we had some meetings with some administrators from the Caddo Parish School Board to talk about ways that we could enhance our partnership with Caddo Parish schools. And during that conversation, we were made aware of a proposal to renovate the Lee Hedges football stadium. I believe we were told at that time that the football stadium needed some updated restrooms, locker room facilities, and some other support facilities under both sets of bleachers on either side of the field. And we were told at that time that the renovation was going to cost the school board about $3 million. So what we would like to do is to make a proposal to the school board today that Willis-Knighton would partner with the Caddo Parish School Board to cover the cost of the renovations of the Lee Hedges Football Stadium to the maximum of $3 million. And then in return, we would receive a 10-year exclusive sports medicine contract with all high schools in the Caddo Parish area. So we're extremely excited to come before you today and to offer that partnership with you. And at this time, Amy's going to take you through a brief presentation, after which time we'll both be available to answer some questions.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for allowing us to come and tell you a little bit about Willis-Knighton Sports Medicine. I have been involved with this program really since its inception, and it grew out of the Willis-Knighton philosophy of philanthropy, to where we give back to our community out of tithing our bottom line. So for 40 years, this practice has really benefited to serve the people in Northwest Louisiana. And our mantra really is that you'll never have a perfect day until you can do something for someone who can't afford to pay you back. And I looked up the inception, or the reason, or the meaning of this mantra, and it actually comes out of a saying from John Wooden. And so I think it's really appropriate that we use that and we talk about that today, about our sports medicine program. Our commitment to Caddo Parish, as Mr. Fielder says, has been in place for greater than 15 years. And it started when we started with a couple of area high schools in Caddo Parish, and we have expanded our outreach to nearly all of the Caddo Parish high schools. And the proposal that we're putting forward today is that we would actually provide athletic training services to all of the Caddo Parish high schools. We have provided preseason physicals at no cost to the students or to the school for at least 10 years. And that has included even schools that we didn't have a direct contact with or a connection with our sports medicine program. Our athletic trainers are on the campuses up to 365 days a year. We know that student athletes participate in events throughout the school year, and even throughout summer breaks and throughout holiday breaks. And so they provide on-site training or on-site injury prevention, as well as care for the students that they serve. So this is our structure. We have a medical director and our team physicians that work in collaboration with myself as the director of PM&R, as well as the assistant director, Lee Riley. We collaborate with our physical therapists and our athletic trainers, who of course provide care directly to the student athletes, working in collaboration with their families and their coaches and the athletic directors of each of our schools. Our medical director is Dr. Mark Callanan, and he is a highly trained orthopedic surgeon with fellowship training in sports medicine. He completed his medical school education at Michigan State University and then went on to do his residency at the prestigious Harvard Medical School. And then he completed his sports medicine fellowship at the Andrews Institute, where he trained under the renowned orthopedic surgeon, Dr. James Andrews, who I'm sure most of you know is from right here in our area, having grown up in Homer. Our current staff includes 10 athletic trainers, and so while they're employed by Willis-Knighton, they really become very much part of their school. They are immersed in the culture of each of the schools that they serve, developing relationships with the student athletes and with the staff, and of course, the parents. We have 4 orthopedic surgeons who serve as our team doctors, and we have obviously multiple consulting physicians throughout our health system. We also have residency and fellowship trained sports medicine physical therapists and sports certified orthopedic specialist physical therapist. And we recently conducted an emergency response for the athlete course, where we certified 14 staff members with a 3-year certification. We felt it was very important to make sure our staff have the latest information and the most evidence-based practice for treating emergency situations with the athletes. So our model of care really separates us from other entities because our top priority is giving back to the community. We have one athletic trainer 40 hours per week at each of the 5A schools, and then all of our non-5A schools receive services commiserate to whatever the needs are of their student athletes. Part of our model of care is that they have expedited care by our Willis-Knighton sports medicine physicians. So the athletic trainers are on speed dial with all of our physicians so that these student athletes can get in and be assessed and move on with the treatment that they might need. And so that, of course, includes access to all levels of care, whether that be the emergency room, radiology, orthopedic surgeons, our family practice doctors, neurosurgery, who helps us manage our concussion management, as well as outpatient therapy. And one of the most important things to all of us in this program is that we are dealing with student athletes. And so keeping the students at their schools and avoiding having excessive appointments to go for things that they can get in the school is very important to us. We do have an emphasis on the return to play, but return to play safely, and that we manage with our athletic trainer in collaboration with the team doctor and a physical therapist if that's appropriate. And then finally, Dr. Mark Callanan provides a free injury clinic during the football season on Saturday mornings, and that's open to any athlete regardless of their school affiliation. And so as we continue to grow our program, we are looking to increase the number of athletic trainers that we have on staff so we can expand the coverage in the schools. We have invested a lot of time and money in this program, but we do recognize that while schools have multiple events going on, it would be a true asset to have additional staff members to be able to help cover those events. We have increased the number of physical therapists to provide care in the outpatient clinics. And so our plan for this coming school year is that we're going to pair our sports-minded physical therapists with our athletic trainers so that we can really make sure we can provide the comprehensive care that each student athlete needs. So at this time, as Mr. Fielder said, we would be open to questions.
Well, we have several. Dr. Gorey, let me get you on as well. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I do think, first off, I want to thank you for coming today and doing the presentation too. I also want to thank Mr. Tisdale, Mr. Greer, and Mr. Steve White for their continued work, because I know they've led a lot of, have worked through a lot of the details of this agreement with you. And I think it's important to note to the board that of our high schools, all but 2 had already had pretty much exclusive relationships with Willis-Knighton, and those 2 were very happy to come on. So this did come up from the campus, and we've ensured that all of our schools are in support of this as well. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we got several board members in the queue. We're going to start with Mr. Rochelle.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, as I said before you ever got up to speak, and y'all just came right in here and just outdid yourself again, one of the questions I have is in the athletic trainers. We have probably, I don't know what the percentage or what the quantity is, we have students that are already in high school looking forward to moving towards sports medicine, either whatever the field. There's so many different areas out there. Is that something that you guys, if we have students that are looking at going that direction, that we could kind of plug in with y'all, that y'all could mentor and help them along through the process?
Absolutely. So in some of our schools, we already have some student trainers that work alongside of our athletic trainers. And so while they can't do things independent of the athletic trainer, they are getting that experience. And that really is our hope. Just as in education, where there is such a deficit of certified teachers, in healthcare, we see the same thing. And we're seeing the same thing with athletic trainers. We're very fortunate to have such a high quality of athletic trainer that works for us. I'm very proud of each and every day what they do. They have most certainly managed very catastrophic injuries in Caddo Parish over the tenure of being there. They're highly qualified. And it would be fabulous if we could continue that and actually grow some personnel right here coming out of Caddo Parish.
Well, we're going to see what we can do to help in that area also. And one of the things that y'all put a note up there, I think is superb, and you hit on it again separately, is just being able to keep our students at school, that they can have the care, taken care of there without having to leave and maybe miss an entire school day or half a school day and everything else. And that's a big deal, especially us coming out of the COVID
Right.
timeframe. I think it's just tremendous, but again, very, very grateful for everything that y'all do. Really am. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Mr. Rochelle. Ms. Bell?
Okay, first I want to say that you don't know Mr. Fielder, but I do. His wife was my boss. She was assistant principal at Hollywood, and we the one, she the one taught me to be quiet. And plus, she was she helped us to change the school to Caddo Middle Career and Technology. So that was the only thing I'm finna ask, and here I go with the babies. I know this is in high school. Eventually, will it be in middle school? Because those babies play football and everything too. Will it eventually have someone to take care, or either just gonna have to be in high school right now?
We would like to expand this program and be able to cover all sports at all schools.
Okay.
But as Amy said, athletic trainers are kind of like hen's teeth right now. We're having to hire them from schools outside of Louisiana and attract them to Louisiana, and it's very difficult. So we're open to that. We're open to doing things like that in the future, but it's all going to be manpower driven.
Okay, thank you, that's all I need to know.
You want to weigh in on that, Dr. Gorey? Okay. All right, Ms. Green?
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Gorey, so we have nobody providing that service right now?
Oh, absolutely. Willis Knighton is doing it. So they're actually, when they talk about extending and giving of themselves, they're actually doing this already in our high schools. And this is just
And they
to get
wanna
the
do it for
exclusive
10 more
contract.
years.
Right, and to get an exclusive contract, they're going to make a gift to the school system to do that. But they're doing it, they were doing it in all but 2 of our high schools already.
So was it another hospital doing it?
I don't
Or
know
was it a
exactly who was
private
doing it. The
company?
only 2 schools was Captain Shreve and North Caddo. They were using someone different, but again, those coaches and principals are all on board with working with Willis Knighton as well.
Knighton. Yeah, well, I'm all for it, but what I don't want is for somebody to say, well, I've been doing it already, and here comes a big company to take us out.
Yeah, I think most people are aware that this conversation, and other organizations were given an opportunity to weigh in on the conversation if that was something they were interested in. So I think due diligence has been done by staff to ensure that, that this is looking out for the best interests of our children.
Okay, well, because, like I said, don't want any phone calls. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Mr. Little?
Thank you, Mr. Nations. I did have similar questions as Jasmine. I didn't know if the process, if this went out for RFP, because we do have Christus and Oshner, and I just want to make sure that there's no hard feelings from those who didn't step into the void. But I do want to personally thank you all, because I can tell you I'm a father of 2 high school athletes that are at Byrd, and they're frequently at events at Lee Hedges. And this is needed, and this reflects our community, because it is a multi-sport center, and it's used regionally. So I think you're improving our image as an organization, but you're also placing yourselves in the center of it. So I do want to personally thank you, and I guess that's it.
Thank you. If I can invite Mr. Tisdale to the podium, Mr. President.
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Tisdale's been very involved in this, in his capacity in athletics, and just want to really make sure he can provide the board with as much information as he can about processes, so that you do have that information in the event that you do receive phone calls.
Hello. Just to give you a little background information, Willis Knighton has been providing this service for a number of years. The only other competitor would have been Highland. We had a conversation with Highland before we did the exclusive deal with Willis Knighton. Highland understood that they could not offer or provide some of the same services and some of the commitment that Willis-Knighton had made. So their only concern was to make sure that we were not going to be forcing students to receive all of their medical services from Willis-Knighton. Willis-Knighton was on board saying that parents have the choice and the right to choose whatever services or whatever providers that their children will receive services from. Willis-Knighton has agreed that they will continue to provide athletic trainers to provide services at all of those schools. If there's an injury on location, on site, those athletic trainers will do whatever's necessary to ensure the safety of those students. But the next day, if the parent decides, I want to take my child to my primary care provider, if I want to go to Highland, if I want to go to Ochsner, the parent still remains that right to take the student wherever. So I hope that provides some clarity.
Thank you, Mr. Tisdale.
Thank you, Mr. Tisdale.
Mr. Dixon.
I think one of the questions I had, Ms. Bell already asked rather. But I guess my question is, and I guess this is new to me, I guess every day I sit here, I find something else I learn about the school district. You all provide this, and who takes care of the cost? Is that insurance, or how are you all paid?
When a child is injured and have to go to the hospital, their insurance would pick up the cost.
Okay, so I know, and I've been around years ago when student athletes at our school, they had a certain insurance that they had in school. Is that the same today? Or does the school or some provider provide insurance for athletes?
It's private insurance.
Okay,
It's all
so
private.
their
It's private. It's all
families
private.
have the insurance.
Absolutely.
What if there are students that aren't insured, that with Medicaid or something like that, take care of that?
We'll
That's
still
all
take
covered.
care of them.
Okay.
That's all covered.
We'll still take care of them.
Okay. Is that all, Mr. Dixon? Okay. Mr. Ryle?
Thank you, President Nation. Everybody talks about knowing Mr. Fielder. I've known Mr. Fielder since I was taller than he was. And that's been a long time.
You can't top that.
That's been a while there.
That long time. Anyway,
You can't top that one, Barry.
okay, no, I won't tell any story. Okay. I'm sort of piggybacking on what Mr. Dixon said. Now, y'all are picking up the tab on the upgrades at Lee Hedges. Okay, in exchange for this 10-year contract. Do we pay them anything for this?
No, sir, we don't. It's the same service that it's, that they are, if you go to the football games and you see that doctor down there on the side, or that physical therapist down there, or that therapist down there, it's the same service that they've always done. There is no cost to the school system. They're there if someone gets hurt. They provide that on-site care there. Of course, family can come down and say, we want to go to Highland or something, and they release them to the family to do that. Or they can, if someone has to be transported, they may transport to Willis-Knighton. So it's the same service at no cost to us.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're very welcome.
That's great.
You waiting for the other shoe to drop? Is that what it is?
I was waiting for the other two, but it doesn't look like yours. That's good. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
I think it's fairly obvious that Willis-Knighton has stepped up to the plate, so I'm kind of curious about, and I know you have, I would think you have plans, being the conglomerate that you are, to promote this. Marilyn Joyner is my mother-in-law, and I'm really wanting to pick her brain and see how y'all plan to get this out to the community, because the community needs to know this, because it's important.
And we, as soon as it's approved by the school board, then we're planning on advertising that we are the exclusive provider of sports medicine services for
Good deal.
Caddo Parish. So we've got plans to do that.
I think you deserve to have that out there,
And
for the
as part of
public
the contract with this agreement, we'll have signage at Lee Hedges, talking about that. We'll have a sign on the scoreboard, some signage underneath where the renovations will take place. So that's how we'll publicize it.
Very good, sounds great. That being said, Dr. Benson.
Yes, sir. Mr. Fielder, thank you. As some of my colleagues have stated, and I want to echo it, thank you all so very much for this gracious gift, as I would. I just want to bring to your attention also, there are some other stadiums throughout the parish, and in a positive way, And want to say, I wrote down, can you, but are you willing to just walk through some others? I'll take you on a tour, take you to lunch, or do whatever you feel. So I want to get on your calendar to do that. But more importantly, in a serious sense, that we can't, I don't believe right now, take advantage of the historical tax credit. And so that's something that I want to throw out at you, that Booker T. Washington has a stadium that your company could potentially take advantage of as far as the tax credits and get some of that money back. So again, thank you all so very much. We appreciate it. And thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You go, Terrence, you go. Ms. Trammell.
Thank you, Mr. President. My questions have been answered, but I want to thank you all so much for the consideration you're giving for that stadium over there, because all of our children use it. And since we know that there's a medical team on board, we really appreciate that for every athlete that's out there and may be injured, but we pray for non-injuries. But he asked the question about publicity. I was wondering how would you make sure that the public know? So we'll look forward to seeing your signages and stuff over in the stadium when we go over there, and we certainly appreciate Willis Knight.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, you saved my life a couple of times. I mean, Willis Knight. The doctors that are there, so we thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Dozart.
Thank you, President Nations. I want to thank you all, Willis Knighton, and all your hard work. It's a good feeling to know that when our students are out there playing sports, and they already know too, they have a backup. Somebody's going to help them when they get injured. That's a good, safe, and it's also, it kind of inspires them not to be worried about the injuries, because they do have somebody who's going to come like a emergency and come and take care of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dozart. Mr. Rochelle.
Thank you, Mr. President. Another question. Football just seems to be what everybody talks about. What about the other sports, basketball, soccer, baseball, and all of the others? Are they also covered also?
We cover them all.
See, this just gets better and better all the time. Oh, well, never mind, I was gonna say something else, but I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Brown.
Will this be an agenda item coming up on next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Oh, God, well, there you go.
Yes, sir, this is an action item. It will be one of your items that you'll vote on in your regular board meeting.
In this month or the next month?
This month.
This month, okay,
This month.
thank you.
Yes, sir. It's on the agenda.
It's on the agenda, yeah.
Right, and one thing I'll follow up with, and thank you again, wonderful presentation. Mr. Tisdale, don't some of our middle schools use their feeder high school trainers, though, in some situations when there are injuries?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We have some of the closest proximity, and those, the best thing about them is night trainers, wherever we ask them to go, wherever we need help, they can go to the door and help.
Right, thank you. And that was kind of my point, is that I know that those trainers have been called. I know of one situation and, jumped and went over to provide assistance. So,
There being no more questions in the queue, thank you so very much. We appreciate you.
You're very welcome.
thank you.
All
Ms.
right.
McDonald, yes.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Fielder and Mrs. Sudis, for that presentation and for your partnership in the community. At this time, we will now invite up Mr. Gregory Kallenberg, founder and executive director of the Prize Foundation, along with his team, Shadi Darzadan and Tom Johnson, who is also one of our educators at the Career Center teaching film and media.
Is it a go? We're good? Okay, cool. I gotta tell you, this is super exciting and super intimidating. I was never ever thinking that I ever would stand in front of the Caddo Parish School Board, and I'm not sure if my mom would be super happy about this or upset, but I'm excited about being here, so thank you. Viva. I just first and foremost want to thank you guys for having us up and for letting us talk about what is one of the most exciting new education programs on the planet, a program called Film Prize Junior. I'm here with my colleagues. That's Shadi Darzadan, who's head of Film Prize Junior Louisiana in our office, and of course Tom Johnson, if you don't know him, an incredible human from the Caddo Career Center, but also our educator in residence. And I'm not good at PowerPoint, so just bear with me here. Here we go. Yep, there we go. There I am again. Fantastic. So again, to reintroduce myself to you guys, my name is Gregory Kallenberg. I'm the founder of the Prize Foundation, and I'm also the inventor of Film Prize, Louisiana Film Prize, the Music Prize, the Food Prize, Fashion Prize, Startup Prize, Focus on Health. Most of the prizes were invented by me, except for the one I'm going to talk about today. Film Prize Junior was invented by my son, Tobias Kallenberg, when he was 14 years old. And he, just so you know, is a proud graduate of Caddo Magnet High. Go Mustangs, undefeated for the last 48 years, as I understand, in football. And I will tell you that it's seriously my favorite T-shirt that I still own, which is 48-0 over the last 48 years. But the idea of what Tobias wanted to do when he invented Film Prize Junior was sort of an adjunct of what Film Prize was. Film Prize, if you don't know, is a short film competition where we invite filmmakers from all over the world to Shreveport, Louisiana to vie for $50,000 cash, the world's largest cash prize for a short film. What Tobias wanted to do was give those same skills to the young men and women of Caddo Parish. He wanted to instill in the middle school and high school kids of our community the talents and the skills that you learn as a filmmaker, and he wanted to do it for free. Now, if you guys know me at all, my wife just told me yesterday that I need to get better at making money and less good at giving it away. As a result, what we did is we created a free program with Film Prize Junior, and Film Prize Junior is a program that really does take kids through the process of filmmaking. What Tobias didn't know when he invented this program is not only how wildly successful and popular it would become, but how it would evolve and transform these kids into being better humans. And while Shadi will talk a bit about the process and how it works, understand that the process of filmmaking, as everybody wants to put it into the bucket of art or the bucket of culture, when you look at filmmaking from just a 10,000-foot view, it is the creation of a plan, right? It's the execution on a plan. And then the way Film Prize Junior works is that once you complete your film, you have to create a sales and marketing plan. You have to collaborate with your colleagues. You have to communicate with them. It is give them those soft and hard skills that are unique and important to the youth of today. And I will tell you, speaking of the youth of today, I just was speaking to Tobias yesterday, who is now 23 years old, living in Austin, Texas, now at, working at a renewable energy company, and he said something very interesting to me. He said that media, and this is a kid, he's not in filmmaking. In fact, when I asked him when he was in college, I said, would you ever consider being a filmmaking major? He said, no, Dad, I actually want to make money when I grow up, which is cool, and I get it, and it's awesome. But the fact is he said that media is one of the most important skills that young men and women can learn, because that is the way you communicate, and that is the way you're successful in the year 2022, right? So the question is we have this amazing program, and I certainly have an ask at the end, but I do want to tell you guys, before I hand it over to Shadi, about the successes that we've had. I always pick on one gentleman in particular, a kid named Brandon Armstrong from Green Oaks High School. Green Oaks being, one of the high schools that's participated with us from the very beginning. Brandon was a kid who attended all of our free education programs. So every program from Film Prize Junior is free to the teacher and to the student. Brandon took copious notes at the back of a room. Brandon created an amazing film. And again, if you create a film, film plays at the end of the Film Prize Junior segment, which is actually the Film Prize Junior Festival. So a big festival, you make a film, the film plays on the big screen. Brandon was interviewed for the red carpet. Brandon said that his highest aspirations were either to be a casino worker or to be in the Army. And I'm not knocking either one of those. I think they are noble professions, and I'm thrilled that the people who find those, and that's their pathway to success. Brandon and his teacher Stephen Scarlato, took Brandon's film, his award, and took it to Centenary College, where Chris Holloman saw the film and what Brandon had produced and gave Brandon a full scholarship to Centenary College. Brandon, right, has graduated centenary with an English degree, and he's tracking towards being a teacher in our city, right? So when we talk about transformative power, this is something that truly does give these kids the pathway to success. And when I say the pathway to success, I know just because Tom has informed me, like the words that I can use that you guys really do internalize and what you want for the young men and women of Caddo Parish. You want there to be industry-based certification. You want there to be a pathway to graduation. Film Prize Junior has provided all of this and has done it in spades. And while I can tell the story of Brandon and what he's done and the successes that he's had, you also have to look at the success that Film Prize Junior's had just in Caddo Parish. So over the time that we started, which is 2017, right? Now, keep in mind, we're not a fly-by-night program. We're an old program. We've been around for 6 years, 5 years. We have produced, or at least helped the teachers produce, 90 short films throughout the schools, 90 short films. That means that over 1,000 kids, because you've got to think between 10 and 15 kids participate on every one of these projects. These kids are taught how to lead, how to collaborate, how to communicate, how to work within the film industry, how to work in general. I mean, we all know as people on the school board what it's like, the challenges that we all have, the challenges that these teachers have to take these kids to the next level, to give them the pathway to success. And that is something that we have done and done really well, and we want to do more of it. And again, there's an ask at the end of it, but before I get there, I want to take the opportunity to introduce my friend Shadi Darzan, who will walk you through the process itself. Thank you. Shadi?
Hello. My name is Shadi Darzan, and I'm going to tell you about how Film Prize Junior works. So through Film Prize Junior, we arm our teachers and our students with the tools necessary to make a short film. For those of you who are less aware, film is, like Gregory said, a very much collaborative medium. There are lots of different materials and fields that are incorporated into film as one final product. You have visual arts, you have music and sound, you have technology and engineering. There's all sorts of things. And luckily through Film Prize Junior, we're able to instill value and importance in those skills as we work through work with our teachers and students. So we, for free through our program, we provide virtual training sessions, in-person workshops, as well as professional filmmakers as mentors to guide our teachers and students through the entire filmmaking process. That's from story concept to script writing, pre-production, filming and production, post-production editing, and then through promotion. And if the students and teachers are able to complete their film through our process, then every single one of those films will screen at our festival at the end of the year at Art Break. So this coming year, April 2023, you'll see every one of the films that comes through our competition at Art Break. It's a great opportunity for us to showcase all the wonderful stories that only the students of Caddo Parish are able to share just by making a little 3 to 10 minute film. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that there are different steps to this process, and we are able to empower our students through each of these steps. We are there helping the teachers, helping the students through every bit of that way. And let me also say this. You might be thinking, oh, well, film is very involved. There's a lot of things you might need. There's a lot of things you might need to know. Well, luckily for our teachers and students, there's no prior experience and no prior equipment that's needed to take part in Film Prize Junior. We provide all the training for free to our teachers and students, again, like the virtual workshops, the in-person workshops, the mentor guidance. We provide all that to our teachers and students who are signed up. And we are also luckily able to scale these lessons and concepts at every step of the way to the resources that each of these schools are able to manifest. So some of the schools in Caddo Parish might have currently dedicated media programs where they already have resources allocated, they have the equipment needed, and they already know they can make great films, and that's wonderful. Some of the schools might not have those resources that are currently allocated where they have a dedicated media department. But luckily, because we live in the year 2022, we have these really handy devices called smartphones. Wow. These are actually a really great tool, and they've made creating and sharing content all the more accessible for teachers and especially students who are already adept at social media. They've already experienced so many different platforms of sharing and creating this content. And so through our competition, we just sort of highlight that process of creativity as a vehicle for developing certain industry-based skills. They can learn how to use professional film equipment. They can learn how to create, shoot, and edit films. They can learn about sound and lighting, but they also, like Gregory mentioned, learn about lots of different interpersonal skills. Through pre-production, they have to understand how to produce and organize and schedule a set. They have to collaborate and communicate effectively with their crew and their teammates. They have to understand how to allocate assets, how to organize, how to create a schedule that they can all work through. And they also, through the process, they have to understand how to engage in the film concept. And as they engage, the more and more they do throughout the process, they're able to find skills that they might not have been able to find before. So once they have made it through the process, submit their final cut, like I said before, every single film that is submitted will screen at the festival with Art Break at the end of the year. And each of those films that is screened at our festival is qualified to win any number of awards. We offer equipment grants to the schools so they can help develop those media programs for filming or news or whatever they'd like to do. We also provide cash awards for teachers who support their students through the process as well, as we communicate with them throughout to make sure we can keep track of their progress. And we also offer scholarships to the students who are completing these films. So it gives them the opportunity to find more pathways after graduation into higher education or into career advancement should they so choose. And we're very fortunate in that the state of Louisiana has a growing film industry. It's constantly been involved throughout the state. And we're also very fortunate that we have a wealth of unique and interesting stories that only the students in Caddo Parish are able to share. So to segue into the next segment, I'd like to discuss, or I'd like to open up the floor to discussion on what kind of outcomes we've seen through Film Parish Junior and what we were able to produce. And to do that, I'd like to invite to the stage Tom Johnson.
Thank you, Shaddy, and thank you, Gregory. I'm going to hopefully do this right. Let me see. Oh, there we go. Let's go. And thank you, school board members. As Gregory said earlier, not only do I work with Film Prize Junior, as I've done for 6 years now, I'm also a Caddo Parish teacher at Caddo Career and Technology Center, and I have been in that position now almost 7 years. I see firsthand how a student can be transformed through this program. Now, I teach digital media, so I'm already kind of in it, if you understand what I mean. And my students come from all over the district. I get every one of your students. Every single one of your students comes to my class sometimes. And I see how a kid can take this program, and I've seen it firsthand, like I said, and they learn to communicate better. They start communicating with their teachers differently, myself included. They see the power that media holds to them. Now, I do know a lot of these important terms because you guys give me a lot of pressure about it, believe it or not. Industry-based certifications are a big deal right now. It's one of our biggest pushes in the state from my perspective in trades. And I understand that through my class, these kids earn these industry-based certifications. Well, again, a lot of the kids who participate in Film Prize Junior don't necessarily come through my class yet. But because they might be on that jumpstart pathway, they can see now, oh, I can do this. I now have these skills that get me through graduation. And I know Gregory made a joke earlier about money in media. Well, there is money in media. You can make quite a bit of money working at a television station, working in all sorts of productions all across the country, and as Shaddy said too, right here in Shreveport in our state. This program, these teachers that I meet and I hang out with a lot that have students that they've put through this program with them are enriched by it as well. They learn part of this process. And in that learning that process, they also know how to communicate with their kids better. Again, it comes back to this idea that media is communication, and it's becoming more and more important in our world every day. Again, you all have it in your hands right now, your cell phones. That is it. I have seen this program take kids that were not engaged in school at all become engaged in school. Something that we desperately fight for every single day in the classroom. I want to say this last little anecdote. One of my students named Kaylee never had an idea about being a media. She was a musician. She didn't even think about making film. She took my class 2 years in a row, and both those years, she submitted a film to Film Prize Junior. And they were great films. She was a brilliant kid. And she took that experience that she got from Film Prize Junior, and she's now working in a production job in Shreveport. She texted me the other day, "Hey, Mr. Johnson, I just want you to know, going through your class and learning about me at film has given me these opportunities I never thought I would have had." That's the power of Film Prize Junior. And that's the power of what we teach our kids and how to communicate through this media. Thank you very much for your time. Gregory has a few other words.
That's a great, I didn't know you were going to tell that story. That's a good story. Kaylee. Tell her, that's awesome. Well, I told you that we kind of go through this program, and I'm not sure how aware you guys were of this program. I will tell you, this program is nationally lauded, right? There are folks out there who are replicating the program, asking us how to put it into their schools. Also want to let you guys know that we're certainly, we are funded by private donations, and we also have a grant with the state, which is something that is pretty awesome. But I also told you that there was going to be an ask. And I think that I kind of have a light lift and I kind of have a heavier lift. And I'll start with the lighter lift because I think hopefully this will be an easier one for you. As I said, you know, you really don't have to dig very far into our 6-year history to see the transformative power we have over the students. You also know the challenges you all have in this post-COVID world in keeping these kids engaged and in a world that they stay connected to their teachers, to their education, and find the pathway to success. And we think we have that key. We think we have that key. The light lift of what I'd like to ask the school board, which to me is hopefully a fairly simple ask, is that we start to get promoted within the schools themselves, whether that is a connection to the schools, the principals, the teachers themselves. Keep in mind that we live outside this sphere, right? We've been banging on the door for a long time, and every now and then somebody answers, right? And then what we do is organically, we grow this throughout the teachers, and we've built a very ardent support group. But it's very hard, it's very manual, it's very expensive for us. We hope that maybe being here and presenting in front of this amazing body of people, that we can open that door, walk into a room, and have that connection to those teachers, those schools, and those principals. Just looking for an easier way in, right? We can do the work, and we've shown we can do the work. We just need an easier way in. The question is what the heavier lift is, right? So knowing that really what I'd like is I'd like that contact to the teachers, the principals, and the teachers, and the principals. The other ask, and again, I don't know how to do this type of thing. I'm not very good at politics. I get to stand, I get to be at podiums. Usually there's a bottle of tequila standing right next to me, which helps me and helps my audience better understand who I am and what we're about. I know. I didn't know. I just thought it was a school board meeting. I shouldn't have brought it. But I will ask that you guys at least get on the path to better understanding media as an important mechanism for these students to give them the pathway to success. And through that, funding the media programs throughout these schools is going to be something that's going to be essential not only to our success, but to your success. The other thing I'd like to ask, and again, I don't know about motions, I don't know how things work, but just let me put sort of like the bug in your ear. To help compensate these teachers to attend the training that we put on. Right now, we live, and these teachers live off of $25 Starbucks gift cards, and sometimes we can get them there, sometimes we can't. But I know that with the power and the lift of this organization, that we might have the ability to put them into the room, give them the gospel of Film Price Junior, and let them show the light on the path to success for every man and woman, young man and woman, there's a middle school and high school student in Caddo Parish, so that every one of them has the opportunity to be a part of Film Price Junior. I don't know if you guys have any questions, but I'd love to hang out. But first and foremost, I want to thank you all for letting us prattle on about Film Price Junior and talk about what is something we love very much, and hopefully you, in the end, will love it as much as we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. You know, whatever the point of access is, whether it be athletics, drama, music, any number of dozens of programs at our high schools or at our career center, what's the key to motivate that kid? And if this is another avenue to do that, then more power to you. And Dr. Gorey, can we get someone on our staff to follow up with his request and
Absolutely.
make those sort of things happen?
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. So you have our commitment to do our best to make those big asks as well as the small ask to come to fruition. So, Mr. Rochelle.
Y'all, great presentation, even though you didn't have your normal sidekick over there.
Yes, it
But
helps.
anyway, I'm just going to share a quick story. This wasn't around, there's a young man that I discipled. This is when he was in high school, and I got to spend a lot of time with him. But anyway, after he graduated, he wandered a little bit. This guy now, his name, I won't give his last name, but Stephen is now an international videographer for a bicycle company. Won't mention that. He travels all over the world doing videos for this particular company. And I don't know exactly how much he makes. Never asked, don't think that I will. But he just y'all said they can make a lot of money. I can tell you because I do know, I have a little bit. He does very, very well, you know, and he's not but 30, I guess he's 35 years old now. But anyway, so obviously there's a whole lot of money in this videography, and of course there's a lot more pieces to y'all's puzzle, but that's just one, and I thought that'd be worth sharing there. But y'all did a great job in presenting this. And
Well, I appreciate that.
and I do believe I'm just going to reiterate that with Dr. Gorey. We will do everything that we can to help y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Rochelle. And I will say this, that what is very prescient about what you just said is that, I mean, I joke about my kid. It's my kid, so I could never tell him anything, and he never want to do what I told him to do. So that's first and foremost. But really and truly, I mean, these skills that these kids are getting are not only taking them to, you know, the jobs, but to these 2-year institutions, these 4-year institutions, are right into the job market, right? So as you heard with Tom, I mean, that is a real-world example. That's not the only real-world example of these kids moving from Film Price Junior right into the workforce. And I will tell you, one of the coolest things, and I moved back here to Shreveport, Louisiana from Austin, Texas. I lived there for 15 years. Pretty cool city, right? I will tell you that now, when you watch a kid go through the Film Price Junior process, and they get to see their film on the big screen at Art Break, and you ask them what they think of that experience, they will tell you that it was amazing and transformative, but they use cool terms that I don't know because I don't know the kid terms. But I will tell you that the other thing that they say is they never thought that something like this could happen in Shreveport, Louisiana, right? Which for all of us, right, that's the struggle we have. We want not only these kids to be educated here, we want them to stay here, want them to work here, want them to be part of a community. And that's something that Film Price Junior does incredibly well.
Thank you,
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Rochelle. Mr. Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, Greg.
Hey, Dixon.
And thank you for your presentation, and it's evident the passion you have, and of course, the gentleman with you. Yeah, I don't want to ask you anything. I'm just acknowledging y'all passion. But I want to say this. I think this is a great idea. There are always things that we lead kids to that are common, athletics and things like that, but there are other outlets where they can go on and make a great living. I know in New Orleans, there are so many artistic things for people to do, and it may be music and film and what have you. And it's great that we could create this culture, if you will, in the Shreveport area. It wasn't too many years ago when, after Katrina, when everything came here, and we were dubbed Hollywood South as a result of it. And it would have been great had we had people prepared years ago to be able to take advantage of the work that was available at the time here in Shreveport. And who knows, God, it's our prayer that we never have a situation like Hurricane Katrina again, where you have to force everything north. But it doesn't hurt. When my grandma used to say, you prepare for war in the time of peace. So it would be prudent to expose young people to something that's outside of what they normally, especially kids in areas like that we serve, and inner city kids that, and so I would hope that while it's fine at magnet schools, that we certainly make sure that the kids in areas that we serve, inner city kids, are exposed to this kind of opportunity as well.
Well, and please know that our intense focus, and keep in mind that our program is completely free, our intense focus is on those areas. As I said, Brandon being at Green Oaks, Katrina at Booker T. Washington. We have a lot of friends out there that have, been friends for a long time, and we try to build the programs in these areas that need it,
But please don't take my statement to say you aren't, but I'm just saying I think it's
No. What I'm saying is that is our focus, and it's always been our focus. Because the way we look at it, and all due respect to Captain Shreve and all due respect to Loyola, they don't need us as much, right? They need, the teachers that they have, and we support them. But we certainly are building programs where there weren't programs there before. And watching a kid like Brandon change like he did, is something that is really what really drives our organization. The other thing I was going to say about Mr. Dixon's comments is that the idea of training up these high school kids to be ready to be union workers in IATSE, right? I mean, we are working on workforce development that will allow these kids to start being on set. And just so that everyone knows, I mean, the film business went away, which meant the crew went away. What we're trying to do is put the crew back in by starting with the high school kids, certainly working with college kids like the ones at BIPSI, and trying to build that crew base back so that film industry has a place to come to. It's important.
Thank you. Dr. Benson.
Yes, sir. You got on a roll, man. I was getting locked into you like I want to say, amen. You made a very powerful you made a very powerful statement just then. And but I wanted to say I did attend the film and food festival. They were great events. That was one of the main things I wanted to say. I think Miss Tootie won the food festival. That many of us know. You probably answered my question when you said you all were working with Booker T. Washington already. There is an intersection between mass comm and this form of media.
You're asking if...
Is there?
Yeah, of course. I mean, again, the beautiful thing that's happened through the democratization of the technology is Shaddy showed you his cell phone, which apparently when he pulled it out, I said, you have to upgrade your cell phone. But the fact is that there is this ability for all of the people who participate in Film Prize Junior and in Film Prize to really transition to some of these mass comm jobs that are there. And, again, depending on where you want to be on the ladder, these skills are skills that are needed to fit into any of those jobs. So really what we are doing is we are doing job training and workforce development, and it's an important part and component of what we do with Film Price Junior.
I'll also add to that is that some of our films from schools come from their mass communication teachers. It's not the art teachers, and I think that's something that, to make sure we're clear on, any teacher can take the mantle and get a student and raise them up and do this film, documentaries from a history teacher, science fiction from a science teacher. And from that perspective, any teacher's able to do that. Any teacher who has that idea and wants to use this tool to communicate and to create with their students. So certainly mass communications is one of the easier ones to get from. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that you were talking about, I thought you were talking about the industry, but you were talking about the classes.
Yeah, just kind of both. You all did a great job. I don't want to hold us up, just wanted to make sure we were in the space, that's all. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Dr. Benson. Mr. Little.
Thank you, President Tony, and thank you for the presentation. I just wish there was a little bit of tequila here. Not much, just a little.
And I'm just going to remind everyone, and Dr. Benson, I'll remind you too, that Prize Fest this year is October 14th through the 23rd, and you're all invited. So yes, there'll be plenty of whatever it is you want there. We make sure of it, yes. Yes.
Excellent.
It is, I love, Darren, it is October 14th through the, October 14th through the 23rd, and it's now 2 weekends. So first weekend's music and fashion, second weekend is film, food, and comedy. We now have a comedy prize. What's that? Yeah. Yes.
So anyway, I do appreciate your presentation today. This is a win because I love public-private partnerships, and this is two today that I think are amazing. I think a couple of areas where this could be maybe incorporated is working with individual schools. We have some schools that have arts integration programs built in. South Highlands comes to mind where they have an emphasis on teaching every subject, integrating art. And there may be opportunities to incorporate this in various ways. We also have an amazing communications department. Unfortunately, we're losing Charnay, but we as an organization do internal films, and we present them almost monthly. And I think, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but if there are opportunities for internships or for assistance or partnership with those, that might be a great experience. And then finally, for many of our arts programs, I would love to see this possibly incorporated into the curriculum where, because our kids are exposed to the classical arts, but sometimes media arts aren't always there. And sometimes if that's, even if it's just a 1-week unit where this is film, this is what it looks like. It may open up some eyes and ears and hearts to a totally different.
And I think that as Tom noted, the tying together of the student and the teacher as you're taking this on is something that is incredibly special to see. And remember what Tom said is you can take on Film Price Junior no matter where you are and who you are and what kind of teacher you are. And if you want a special way to teach a history unit, make a history documentary, right? If you want a special way to create something that takes on science fiction, physics problems, we've seen it done with Film Price Junior before with a science teacher and their students. It is an incredible skill that every one of these teachers should be able to take on if they want to take it on, and to give that gift to those teachers and those students that allowed them to work together to create something incredibly special.
And that's evidence-based. I mean, we see that, particularly with children that learn differently. When you expose information in unique ways, it draws them in. So I would love to see that explored. And then you may have covered this, but my ADD kicks in sometimes. What industry-based credentials are being offered through this, through?
Certainly. Adobe software.
Certification.
Yes, sir. And we have had kids, I teach Premiere Pro, After Effects, Photoshop, and Animate.
Okay.
And those are all Department of Education approved IBCs, right? So a kid takes my class, not just takes my class, because I talk about this throughout the program that we do with the students while we're doing our workshops and in-person things. And that's how, and if I know a student is on that pathway, on the Jumpstart pathway, then I can start pushing on it, right? Hey, you know, you can do this in Photoshop, right? You're good at this. Use this project, this program to create a movie poster. And then you're learning that skill that's going to help you pass that IBC, even if you didn't take it from me, if you took it at any other school, right? Now, I know there's some of the other high schools are starting to offer some of these, which is fantastic, but it is also a driver to my class. You know, frankly, I do recruit students to come take my class because of their participation in Film Prize Junior. So those are the main four.
So it's not a formalized process. I mean, if they have an interest in it, you kind of.
Yes, sir. We're not, we have talked about that before, that we would be able to offer the certification exams through Film Prize Junior at some point. We're just not there. We just don't know if that's something through the Department of Education that we'd actually be able to obtain. So it is, again, it's a stepping stone for those industry-based certifications, for sure, though. And again, I've had kids that we brought through the program who most definitely got their pathway, their Jumpstart IBC through my class.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Greg, we appreciate the invitation to the film prize. However, you're late. Patrick Curtin has already invited me, and I plan on being there, so he's
Well,
amazing.
I appreciate his gumption, if nothing else.
Dr. Gorey.
Right, certainly want to thank Mr. Johnson, Shaddai, and Gregory for your presentation. You know, I've had opportunity to talk to Tobias about this vision when it was born and when it grew, and it's just been so exciting. I think about those conversations with Tobias, but I also think about how excited we were the night when our Green Oak student won, because remember, you're competing from people throughout the entire region, so it was just really an amazing night when he won, and just so excited with what he's doing at Centenary and moving forward with his career. You know, but we'd be remiss to, you know, if we did not acknowledge board what a unique experience Art Break is, and this is a part of that festival. And you know, all throughout my highlights of things that have gone well in the district is one of the things we talk about is bringing Art Break back in person, and look forward to working with this. And it would certainly be remiss if we did not acknowledge and send greetings to my friends Sandy and Jeffrey, of course, and Heidi, and just thank them for their continued support and generosity to the arts in our community.
Yeah,
Thank
well,
you.
I appreciate you saying that. And again, you know, the idea of what you guys have allowed Shreveport to become, right? And I know the trials and tribulations of being on a school board, and I hope it's not as bad as it looks on YouTube. But I will tell you that the work that you guys do is absolutely incredible, and the ability to allow for there to be a pathway for these kids is amazing. And we hope that we can be a part of helping you guys be even more successful with these teachers and these students as we move forward. So thank you so much. And as we are prone to say at the prize, we say Viva the Caddo Parish School Board. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you,
Appreciate you.
Jeffrey.
Gregory and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. We look forward to enhanced cooperation with y'all, so thanks so much.
All right. And thank you, Sharna. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for your presentation.
I certainly do also want to take this opportunity. Mr. Little kind of let the cat out the bag, but do want to, and I was going to do this today too. No, you're good, you're good, you're good. I do want to acknowledge, you know, I think if you were to call and ask me what has been Charnae McDonald's most significant contribution to Caddo Parish Schools, it is her ability to do a beautiful job of telling our story. Just done a phenomenal job of telling our story. But as you know, and just so proud of the way, as we went through a pandemic, something that is so important, that we celebrate and remember the achievements of our children. She found a way to bring that to life, even when the children could not be here. We're so excited for Charnae and her family as they make a transition to a new career opportunity. And we certainly want to take this opportunity to wish her the very best, and to know that you will be missed dearly in Caddo Schools, and that your time here, and though not long, has been very significant. So thank you, and wish you and your family the very best as you transition.
Thank you.
If you'll come around and shake the board members' hands, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all.
joke with you, buddy. You've done great.
Thank you. When I read that news, I'm like, what? I didn't want to believe it, but all the best to you and your family. You've helped me look good as a board member, as a president. You've helped me look really good, so I appreciate you. All the best to you.
All right. Love you dearly. Good luck. I'll get you, Mary Ann. I think I got you. Next Wednesday. She goes through Ring the Bell.
I thought she was leaving tonight.
No. No, she's going to be here through Ring the Bell. So again, that's her last production.
Okay.
I will be here to get school started, and I just want to thank you guys all. This has been an incredible opportunity to serve our district and all of our kids around Caddo schools. So thank you so much for all the support that you've given me and how you've grown me in this career. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Well, we can't very well end on that note. It's a good note, but we're happy to congratulate you and Charnay as you move forward in your career. But we do need to establish our agenda for the August 16th meeting. I'm going to call upon Dr. Gorey to delineate our agenda items.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Starting with Personal Transactions Report, item 6.01, Personnel Recommendations. There is one there. Item 6.02, Personnel Leave, Certified and Classified. There's one certified. Item 6.03, Personnel Recommendations, Classified and Certified. There's 6 classifieds there. Item 7.01, Capital Projects Bids. There is one, but the bids have not opened. Item 8.01, there's nothing. Item 8.02, approval of a 36-month agreement with Synergistics. We're awaiting final agreement. Item 8.03, approval of mental health interagency agreements and contracts. Tongue twister. Item 8.04, consideration of recommendation for discipline review committee for revisions to policy JD discipline grid for fighting. Item 8.05, approval of sponsorship and sports medicine service partnership agreement with Willis Knighton Health System. Item 13.01, there are none. Item 13.02, and these are in executive session. There is a settlement, a request for settlement authorization in Elisa Perez Holden and Autumn Perez Holden versus Berkeley Insurance Company, Caddo Parish Schools, and David Bryce Civil Action Number 620661B, claim number 7016362. Item 1303, request for settlement authorization in Paula McCune versus Brenda Everett and Caddo Parish School Board, civil action number 6330378, claim number 7161095. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. We already had a pretty good description on each of these agenda items, so I'm not going to mention each one in great detail, but we need to establish which one of these items can be put on our consent agenda. 6.01. I'm assuming, unless I hear otherwise, it's okay to put on consent. 6.02, personnel leaves. Okay. 6.03, personnel resignations. Okay. 7.01, capital projects bid. Okay, yeah, we don't have all the information on
Yeah,
that
Mr. Trammell's on
just
it.
yet. Okay, let me get you on the queue here, Mr. Trammell. There.
You know, we often have questions, Mr. President, as it relates to the items that be in that capital projects. Now, to understand, this is an emergency, right? This is something that we needed to do or something? Okay,
Well,
yeah.
Steve, come on, well, I'll let him
Okay,
speak
yeah.
to it. We just don't have to bid.
We don't have to be, it's something that we're already planning to do, okay? I just want to know.
You're up.
Yes, Mr. Mel,
I would definitely consider this an emergency. If you're
Right.
familiar with the campus at Caddo Magnet High, the wing, the green space in between the cafeteria wing and the wing just to the north of it. I don't know if it was a previous administration, good meaning PTA, came in and placed a lot of concrete, decorative concrete, where students could sit and read. And the problem that is created is now when water comes off the building to the north, there's very little, I'd say it's been reduced to probably 20% of what it originally was of green space. Now it's got a hard concrete topping.
All right.
The water is flowing downhill and into classrooms on the side where the cafeteria is. And last spring, during one of these deluge rains, you've got one classroom over there that is, as I would describe, auditorium seating. There's a couple of feet of water in the bottom of it. So it's flowing down the concrete, across the sidewalk, and back up into the classroom. So what this is placing 3 or 4 area drains in that, what little green space is left, and then a trench drain along the sidewalk, along the cafeteria wing. So if any concrete makes it that far, it's intercepted before it can go into the classrooms. But we're trying to get it done before, if rainy seasons ever hit again, trying to get it done before that.
We've been getting a little rain. Okay, thank you so much, Mr.
Yes,
White.
ma'am.
Okay, so obviously that item cannot go on consent. 8.02, approval of the 36-month agreement with the synergistic program. I'm going to get to you, Ms. Bell, I promise. Mr. Rochelle?
Well, one of our board members right next to me already said he was a little surprised to see my name next to Synergistic. Some of y'all may not have been around long enough to know all of the past history. The wonderful thing about this is in discussions with staff, they have come up with I'm going to borrow Mr. Little's comment, a public-private sector partnership that has huge benefits. I was greatly impressed with what was being offered. Y'all have the information that's already there, but one of the things I also want to point out here is that the cost to accomplish this, if we were to try to do it totally internally, would cost us more and be more difficult for us to actually have the staff available. We get to keep additional staff that's going to be in place to coordinate. One of the, and I'm not going to say one of the key because it is just another piece to the puzzle, is there's a young man that's actually a graduate from our system that works for Synergistic. I'm just going to say his name is Ryan, and the young man is, from what I understand, brilliant and knows our school system like the palm of his hand and does all of the reporting. But one of the items that's not actually on here, and I'm going to read through this, that is that all of the reporting, and I have no idea how many of y'all even paid attention to the reports and understand I don't even understand the software, but this is one of the things that we're going to continue to get along with everything else that you see in the handout, is all of the board reports, all of the control meetings that are accomplished, energy accounting, software entry, directing traffic with mechanical and control issues for maintenance. The other things, and it's still not listed on here, is part of having them as a partner here is there's also additional training that goes on not only with staff, but it also goes on with students, because there's also a student portion to this that's been going on. Obviously, y'all can see I wholeheartedly support it because I put my name next to it. And I really am. I'm asking y'all to please support this. This is a really, really good, wise, I'm going to borrow some of their comments, cost-efficient, cost-effective. This really is a very good deal, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Right, if I could add some of that to it, certainly if I were to reflect upon some of my first conversations with Mr. Rochelle in December of 2013, it was around energy management. You know, we've certainly agreed on a lot of things, not always agreed, but really happy to be able to bring you a part of this conversation as to how do we move forward, not in a cost-sharing perspective, but really looking at those behaviors that we learn from synergistic and to continue to implement those so that we can be as efficient as we can be. I think we know fuel is not going down, gas or natural gas or any of these things are not going down. So us being able to be more efficient, us being able to maintain staff that's already familiar with our system and the way we operate is really critical, and doing it at a cheaper price. So thank you, Mr. Rochelle.
Okay, that being said, can this item be put on consent?
Yes.
I think so, we're just making sure. 8.03, approval of the mental health interagency agreement. Yes? No? No? Okay, Ms. Green.
Yeah, we've been getting this for quite a bit of time now, but we never really see any, are we getting any results from any of this? We keep seeing these different names.
Oh my, the mental health people? Are you talking about those 8? Oh, yes, absolutely. In fact, I think if you look at how we are managing our social emotional learning and our student well-being initiatives in the district, these mental health agencies play a huge role in providing those mental supports to students on campus when that's what's needed. As you know, we do have a Tier 1 SEL platform, which is something that we're doing to support the mental well-being of all children. But from there, when we look at children who are in adverse childhood experiences, and pretty much I think COVID is an adverse experience for all children, and how we are referring those for additional support through our mental agencies has been very helpful to the school system.
Okay,
Anything else, Ms. Green?
yeah, I'm done.
Okay, all right. All right, so.
Ms. Trammell was on there too.
Okay, Ms. Trammell.
Oh, Dr. Benson, he was first.
Dr. Benson, we'll call on you first. You're speaking to
Well,
this item?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, about the mental health.
Yes.
I'm with this, I've asked this question before. Our staff can see these agencies too, correct?
Actually, the answer is yes to that, but what we do is we really are very careful that we refer them to someone generally at another site, or we make, well, through our employee assistance program, we make sure that they do receive support.
Okay.
We don't always utilize the people on their campus, though.
Yes, sir.
But
Oh,
we
right,
do
right,
have
right.
agencies for them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you, sir.
Ms. Trammell.
Mr. President, Dr. Gary, this is in addition to this group.
We bring these annually, so we renew all of our contracts annually. And what it does is it gives either Barzana White's team, Dr. White, I should say, her team, or Dr. Lockett's team, because remember, she'll bring some through too. It gives them an opportunity to reevaluate to make sure that they're still meeting that minimum, that standard that's required. So you will see, a lot of these are the same ones you signed off on last year, because we do require an
Okay,
annual
but this is such a
approval
short
process.
list, that's why I was
Oh,
asking.
there are more coming.
Okay,
There are more
all right.
coming.
Thank you.
They're working through that process of ensuring that they meet those standards as set by board.
Okay.
Mr. Ryle, you want to speak to this item?
No, it's the next.
Okay,
Me
all
too.
right. All right, so that being said, can we put 8.03 on consent? Yes, all right. 8.04 is consideration of the recommendation from the Discipline Review Committee for revision to the policy JD, discipline grid for fighting. We're going to ask Mr. Ryle to comment on that.
Okay, I have a question. I've had situations in my district where people call me where two people have gotten in a fight, and there's never seemed to be a provision or an exception for self-defense. Now, if you get jumped on, I mean, if you're standing on the front porch outside front of school and somebody comes up and starts beating on you, the way this thing reads, if you fight back, you get expelled too.
Right. Let me do this. I'm going to ask Mr. Greer to explain this policy, but I'm going to ask Mr. Adams to come to the podium, and Mr. Adams will speak to what you've described as the self-defense and how that works. But I'm going to ask Mr. Greer to describe what this discipline committee is recommending as we go into next school year.
Mr. Greer, your microphone is on.
You're on, Mr. Greer.
Okay, thank you. So we gathered information that was submitted from school principals around the notion of what we could do to try to provide more of a deterrent for students in terms of their decision-making around engaging in confrontations. And we took that information, we discussed it in our executive cabinet, had some additional discussion with it, and we came up with an opportunity to meet with our Discipline Policy Review Committee to present 2 different proposals, and these proposals were presented by one of our high school principals, Dr. Grady Smith. The first proposal was around modifying our fight policy. Currently, the fight policy has a 3 infraction situation. So the first infraction, student is suspended 3 days. Second infraction, you're looking at a 5-day suspension. Third infraction, you're looking at 9 days. And then you move into an expulsion hearing, which is a non-state mandated situation. What's intended with the progressiveness of the policy, there are opportunities or steps along the way that should warrant the schools being able to implement certain interventions, restorative practice measures to try to make sure that they're teaching kids to make better decisions, teaching them to be more responsive, to be more alert to opportunities to inform school staff in situations where they might be forced with a confrontational situation, and to try to make the best decision possible from that angle. So at any rate, the information that we took to the Discipline Policy Review Committee, we were going to take out one of the steps. Instead of a 3-tiered situation, it was going to be a 2-tiered situation. So that first tier that we proposed was going to be up to a 5-day suspension, and then that second situation was going to be moving straight to a school board hearing. And so the concern expressed by the majority of the Discipline Policy Review Committee was that if we're taking out one step, we're not, in essence, going to be able to totally ensure that students are getting the restorative practices and the supports that they need to make better decisions around this process. So the recommendation was that to leave that third 3-tier situation in place. The changes that you see before you is on that first infraction, students will be suspended up to 5 days, so it moved from 3 days to 5 days on that first intervention with the parent conference, and we added that the student must attend mandated fight diversion class. This is an opportunity for students to learn, to reflect on their behaviors and try to make better decisions in moving forward with some of the strategies that they'll be presented during the fight diversion class, and also to participate in counseling, which will take place at the school. Charges may be recommended by administration, so that was an opportunity for us to give school administration some flexibility. They're not warranted, or I guess mandated to file charges, but if the situation calls for it, they certainly have that opportunity to work with their SRO to do so. The second infraction, student would be suspended for 5 days, and we also instituted mandatory counseling, a needs assessment, so that now we're in a situation where we can explore as to whether or not student has greater needs that might extend beyond the school's reach, and be able to provide some mental health services if needed, or some external supports from external agencies. And it also institutes that the school building level committee, which is the SBLC committee, would be part of would schedule a meeting with the parent, with the student, and with the appropriate staff. And this is for the purpose of putting necessary interventions and actions in place to make sure that there are some things to cope with some of the behaviors or help the student cope, and to provide those supports from the school level. And again, charges may be recommended by administration. In that final stage, again, it's the same as it's always been. Student is suspended for 9 days with an expulsion hearing, and again, charges may be recommended by administration. So that was proposal 1. Proposal 2, we talked about the impact of videoing on campuses. So usually, and you guys see this and hear about this all the time, whenever there's a fight or something that breaks out at school, first thing kids want to do is pull out that cell phone and they start recording. And a lot of times these things are reposted, or they are redistributed, and it often leads to further escalation of whatever's already taken place. It involves more students getting to the point of having to make decisions as to whether or not they're going to engage each other around a conflict situation. So we wanted to have something in there that would address that. So we put that the recommendation is going to be to add that to the item under the discipline grid where it says initiating or instigating a confrontation. We want to make sure that it now includes the modification to add videoing. And so to respond to the first infraction, we recommended that to include attending mandatory conflict resolution. So again, this is an opportunity to really stress to the student the error of some of your ways and to really get them in a better frame of mind in terms of how they're going about their daily business at school and the decisions that they're making. Also, it would be an opportunity for the school building level committee to convene around putting in some steps or some procedures to help that particular student to understand those things, and a little bit more to hold them accountable. And that second infraction, if it happens again, we're talking about the same language used in initiating or instigating a confrontation to include modifications of adding videoing. So we're looking at a situation where you could see a student suspended behind, that repeated behavior. And those were the infractions, those were the proposals as presented to the Discipline Policy Review Committee, and they were unanimously approved to bring before the board.
Adam, you want to elaborate on some of that, or?
You want, yeah, and speak to the self-defense.
Let me restate my question.
I remember.
Okay.
Would you like for me to address your question first?
You're a senior at Green Oaks. No, wait just a minute. Okay. No, wait a minute. Okay, you're a senior at Northwood, and somebody comes up to you on the thing up there and just pops you upside the head. Are you going to you're going to fight back, aren't you? You're going to defend yourself.
Most likely.
Then what happens to that person?
Okay, it's like this. That's part of due process. The school administrator is supposed to interview the participants, interview their witnesses, and make a decision based upon his or her findings. If the parent does not agree with the findings of the school-based administrator, we have a checks and balances type system. They can appeal that suspension to the attendance office. If both of them are suspended, and the reason is for participating in the fight, then we assume that the administrator's investigation was complete, first of all, and that they had a reason to believe that each party was equal in that fighting. If it isn't and the parent disagrees, like I say, they can appeal it, but the first line is the school-based administration who does give the child due process.
Mr. Adams, I'm going to jump back to my assistant principal days, and the way you would always explain this is that, yes, you can be in that situation and you can fight, and after the investigation, it can be deemed that that was the only way that you had to exit the situation. But there's a difference in that being the only way you had to exit the situation, and I'm going to fight back. So if you could have fled or you could have done something different, there is a possibility that the investigation will show that you were a participant in a fight because someone hit you and you chose to hit them back. They hit you, you hit them back, because that's a fight, that's participation.
Well, now, what's the normal response if somebody comes up and hits you? I mean, come on, Doc. I mean, somebody come up and hit you.
And that's what I tell. But I remember our son was very young, and I've told so many parents that, it's a decision, and you have to understand, sometimes if your decision is to fight back, if there was an option for you to exit the situation, to go to an adult, which doesn't always sound cool, I understand that, but you have to understand it's a consequence with it.
Yeah, the decision, well, I'm not going to fight back, I'm going to go rat on this guy, and then everybody else is going to hate me. Okay, now,
well, and what I would say is that
y'all answered that question. Let me have my other one. Okay, when students get in a fight and they're dealing with this and they're a participant, okay, do they lose their sports and extracurricular activities, privileges?
That is on a school-by-school basis. I am aware of one of the schools that if children participate in a fight, they are not allowed to participate in or go to some of the extracurricular activities. But some of that is placed in their PBIS plans, and that's what the school is going off of.
Okay.
And some of that, too, is in those athletic codes that they sign with things that they won't do if they're going to participate on the team, too.
In determining participation of a fight, or initiating, or instigating, are we, what I've seen on this board in 14 years situation, I've seen it, sometimes we're not very objective about it. We tend to side and go on the side of both of them are guilty, no matter what. Even though we got videos that somebody got smacked and and the other person is keep hitting them, and they've just had to defend themselves, and they both got suspended. I mean, something we need to think about. I mean,
Right.
it's not
And I
right.
do think that can happen. I do think ultimately our goal, though, and again, I know it's not always cool to be the one to run or to tell or any of that, but it's just so much going on in this day and age with weapons and things of that nature. So
Yeah,
we're trying to do everything we can to even, to deter people from even fighting back, because it's just so much going on, and try and create a safe environment.
Okay, last question. Are we, especially the young men, especially the young male athletes, okay, which have a little more testosterone than most of them, okay, are we making them fully aware of this situation so that they know, like, you know, if you get in a fight, you're going to lose privileges, you're going to get expelled, you're going to get this? Are they totally made aware other than just the student handbook?
Oftentimes, school administration goes through all of the rules and regulations with the students at the beginning of the year or during the student orientation.
Did you say oftentimes?
Oftentimes.
Oftentimes.
Mr. Abrams, you want to weigh in as far as legal on
Yeah,
this?
there's always self-defense. So you have to realize self-defense would be if someone is defending themselves from someone beating them up. But after a certain period of time, they become the aggressor. That's when you end up with both of them participating in a fight. So you've got that level of what's going on, you know, when they participate. So if someone self-defends themselves for a period of time, then they would be free. Basically, the statute provides for that. But if they continue on and they're gonna batter someone and beat someone, then now they're participating in a fight.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the way it really works.
Okay, take it from there. Okay. I don't usually talk that much, but thank you for answering my questions.
Okay, Mr. Ryle. Actually, we're going to call on you in a minute, Ms. Bell. I know what you want to speak about. Mr. Little.
Thank you, President Nations. You know, they say that the chicken has a passive role in breakfast and the hog has an active role in breakfast, right? One's providing an egg and keeps going. The hog is committed. The hog's there, right? The joke is funny in other circles, so I need to work on that one a little bit. But when we talk about videoing, that's a passive role, right? An active role is sharing the video. And so if I'm just standing there and something interesting's happening and I begin filming it, there should be no culpability for me filming it. Where the culpability comes in is if I take that and start sharing it and start amplifying the anger or whatever's going on. I think in the policy, we need to distinguish between an active and a passive role, because walking by, oh, my friend's getting their ass kicked, I'm gonna take a picture of it. That, to me, is not a culpable situation.
It's a discretionary suspension.
Right.
Meaning the administrator, we empowered them to decide if the child deserved to be suspended. We actually have had administrators tell us that was a way that they were able to rule or deal fairly with students based upon students' video. So in a situation like that, the child might not be suspended. Whereas if they were, from the onset of the fight, knew it was gonna be a fight, helped push it up and then videoed it, that would be a different scenario. And like I said, it's all, go ahead.
As an input on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a disincentive for people to video, and there may be cases where, you know, as a board, we've gone in private session and we've watched fights on school video, and it's kind of hard to see what exactly is going on, but if you have multiple sources, you've got multiple angles, you know, it kind of adds some depth to it. And I think if we have a policy where, in reading this, it sounds like videoing would be disciplinary action.
I do think our intention was to leave that broad, but where I would even caution someone from videoing their friend is that it's such a dangerous situation. You really need to be fleeing that fight versus encouraging, because we certainly don't want to encourage kids to, you know, stand there and video a fight and end up getting trampled or fallen on either.
And I receive that point. I guess I'm just making a distinction between active and passive roles. Videoing is a totally passive role. You're not encouraging the fight. You're not stopping the fight. But I think we may regret having this listed the way it is. I think.
The intent behind it was to stop them from getting and pre-planning a video fight. That's what happens, and we've had it several times where you can see on one of the school cameras that all of a sudden everybody's got their cameras out, and then all of a sudden you see everyone start beating up this person. But the cameras are there because they know that they're getting ready to fight. It's not because it's interesting, it's because they've all pre-planned that they're going to participate in a fight.
We're looking at the crime and then we're associating it with videos. I think everyone knows, and that's unchanged from when I was a child. I mean, everyone knew at recess, so-and-so and so-so are going to be going head-to-head, so everyone would kind of gather around. I mean, you can't punish people for receiving the information and showing up. I just think a little refinement on that would be a little bit more effective.
If you turn state's evidence, you get off.
The other aspect to this is there is technology where you can geofence schools and shut down access to certain sites. Is that something that we've explored, or is that something that's being done in other districts? So what would prevent all this communication
Are you talking about in
advance?
reference to social media?
Social media, sharing videos, it would allow time to de-escalate. So kids can't start texting, Mr. Adams and Mr. Little are going to go at it at lunchtime. They wouldn't be able to do that because you've shut down Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, access to those while they're on campus.
The Supreme Court won't allow us to discipline kids for that, and that's one of the reasons it doesn't have posting on there. Basically, there's a recent case that says that you can't just discipline kids for videotaping and posting different things if it wasn't on the school campus. Now, if it's on the school campus, it's a different issue, but you can't just go out and decide because they posted something. It could be a video that came from somewhere else that they posted, a fight or whatever. So we kind of stayed away from that as being a potential deal. And like we said, it's up to 5. It's not, and it is in the discretion of administration. It is not one of those where it's a mandated offense. So it's kind of like they do get a chance to see what's going on. It's just like who started the fight, who didn't start the fight, where they get to look at everything. There's a loophole, but realize we had this issue when it first started. Cameras weren't important. We wouldn't allow anyone to video anybody. That was a big deal, that everybody flips out cameras when cameras were contraband in the school areas altogether, and they didn't want videos at all. So I understand your issue, though.
But did you say that the Supreme Court said that student videoed evidence cannot be punished?
No, I'm saying you have to have, there's 2 different ways that we have jurisdiction. One is has to occur on school campus or during a particular, at a particular event that's school sponsored. The only other time you can have it is if it substantially interferes with the educational process. So if someone is making a video or a video of anything and they're showing it on their personal time, and it's not in the school, we can't just go and discipline that student just because they're a student. They have to be doing something that substantially interferes with the educational process, which means they're videoing and now they're showing fights and it's getting back to the school and it's causing problems at the school. That's a lot more evidence that it takes to prove that type case that we have even jurisdiction to deal with it. So, and it's a First Amendment right that we're talking about, that you have a right to be able to post as long as, and we can't just go in and tell you what you can and cannot say and do.
Okay, thank you. I've taken a lot
We'll
of time.
talk later.
Okay. Mr. Trammell.
Oh, God. Mr. President, I'm like Mr. Rilo. I'm still trying to understand what's considered the opportunity to be in a fight and the opportunity to defend yourself, because I guess I'm probably the only board member up here from the old school, and you walk up and hit me.
No, you're not the only person.
I mean, I'm just trying to make sure I understand.
That was what
Because
I
I
said,
feel that
you
if-
can defend yourself.
Well, I defend myself and.
Self-defense is a defense.
But when you become, what was the word, aggressive?
Okay, so let me give you a scenario. You might have a child, for instance, in a PE locker room, and you have a group of children around them.
Okay.
And you have an aggressor who goes up and attempts to fight. They push the child. There's no way for the child to go because the child is in a corner.
Right.
Okay? In a situation like that, and there's no adult for them to tell, then that would be considered self-defense. Okay? Now, you have a teacher, let's say where Mr. Nations is, and
I'm over
you
here?
and Mr. Dixon began to fight. He hits you first. You have the opportunity, if there's no one around you, to let him know or let him handle the situation if he's observed it. But if you willingly fight, then that is not considered, based upon the school, self-defense.
Have you ever thought that a child does not think like that?
Okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, and let me
I'm
go.
just asking,
And let me
I'm-
give you
you know.
an opportunity for that child. We have what we have called conflict resolution, fight diversion. They can go up, it's in my office, it's offered by the school system, it's paid for. Now, the parent would have to pay money if they can afford it. If not, there's no charge. And that can be removed or rescinded or reduced, the word is reduced to a one-day suspension, or even they might wipe the suspension away depending on the school administrator,
Okay, well, I'm just,
once they've participated in that class.
just trying to weigh it out. I understand that the attorney wants us to understand the difference in being aggressive. But after it happens, I mean, the initial blow causes something to happen to you, well, to me. So I'm not too sure if I still haven't got that. You know, we've talked about this a number of times.
Yes, we have.
When I think like this is the first infraction a child has participated in a fight, and then that child's record is messed up because, you know, we see it this way. So I'm just, since we're rewriting it, so, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
It's
Williams.
always been a challenging space.
It is.
Anything else, Mr. Abrams? Pardon? Anything else from you at this point?
No, I think.
All right. Okay, Mr. Dixon.
I thought Dottie was on. I think I'm as confused as everybody else about this.
I promise I'm getting, deal with this one first.
In Florida, when the young Trayvon Martin got killed, Zimmerman was able to get off from what they call stand your ground. And I agree with Mayor that kids, I mean, any man in here, and most women too, if somebody hit them, your parents tell you if somebody hit you, hit them back, you know, and because, especially if I'm not the aggressor, and there may be a circumstance where the aggressor picks on somebody, the guy defending himself, and the defender overtakes him, and it looks like he got into it, but I just don't, I hope there are some measures where they're given, it seems like that's the case in this policy. There's some measures in the policy that takes that into account, because, I mean, and then, let me say about the video, and I don't know if I've agreed with Don Little since I've been up here, but I kind of agree too. I don't see how video and kids video everything. You know, that's how Timmy Lane make a living. He video everything, and so that's like saying watching TV calls me to go and start another fight. I just, you know, I don't, and I could be wrong, but it's just hard for me to understand. But I want to be on the side of like Dr. Gorey said, of creating the safest environment we can. But I can't say I'm voting on this without some concerns and reservations.
Right, and one thing I'll add is that, and again, this has always been a very touchy situation when you talk about defense, but please understand it is our charge as a school system to create and to deter students at any measure from fighting, and that's
Yeah.
our ultimate
Well,
goal.
I'm like-
Now, and one thing I'll say is that, and trust me, as administrators, and we've sat in some of those sat in those seats. We spend a lot of times every day researching, determining if this was actually defense, looking at your social media. They look at text messaging. Was this a fight? Was there opportunities for this to be prevented? And administrators spend an exhaustive amount of time in that space. So I do want you to know that due diligence is being done. And in a lot of situations, it just turns out to be a good fight.
Yeah.
And again, as a parent, again, I tell you, I remember when I would tell people, I too was told as a child, someone hit you, hit them back, told my son that, but I understood that I was going to have to go pick him up because he was going to be suspended. And I would tell that to parents all the time, that I understood, and that's been the case for a while in our school system. As far as the videoing, I do believe a lot of the comments that you speak of, Mr. Little as well as Mr. Dixon, were things that our administrators have said too, and that's why they did leave that space there to where the only time you're going to see a child disciplined there, if there's clear intent to use this for something that is not appropriate.
Well,
and that's kind of the goal.
I'm
there.
just
But again,
worried. I'm
let
like
me just
you.
also continue to say, though, we have to, I don't want any child standing there thinking they're in a safe space if people are fighting, because there's just too much going on in this day and age, and I encourage students to flee and get themselves to safety.
You're absolutely right. I'm just concerned, I'm like my colleague, Ms. Green, now I'm concerned about the phone calls we go get from folk getting suspended.
Send them to us. You got to refer those to staff, because that's not a board function. And the thing you got to remember, and I certainly remind the board of this, is that because it's discipline, you are a part of an appeal process, so don't listen and don't give an opinion at that initial call. Send that to staff so that you can be a part of the appeal process. That would compromise the entire process.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Dixon?
No, sir.
Mr. Rob?
Thank you. I got one more question.
I know better than this. I know better.
Now, at Northwood,
Not Green Oaks.
there was a situation a few years back where a young lady hit another young lady. You may remember this. And another girl stepped in to protect the lady that got hurt, got hit. And then that lady, the one that stepped in to protect the one that got hit, got expelled. Now, and we got so much gray area here we're dealing with. And then she got expelled, and I caught it from the parents on that one. But she got it. Do you remember that situation?
It's been quite a few.
It's been, well, I know it doesn't happen about once a year, though, you know? No, but do you remember that, Reggie?
You want me to speak?
Yeah, and we saw the videos and everything, and it was pretty much evidence she stepped in to protect that one that got hit, but then she caught the brunt of it, too. How do we deal with that?
We have been charged with the responsibility now to differentiate between if it is a group that's fighting or someone jumps in to help and they might become involved in it versus if it is an outright gang fight or a planned brawl between multiple individuals.
Because I think in this situation, the girl stepped in to help.
We have
And then
evolved
she
to
got
that.
beat up, too, so she started back fighting, is what happened.
We have evolved to that.
Yeah, okay, well, I know this is a,
What was happening was you had, it counted more than two, it became a group fight and you were expelled.
Yeah.
That no longer is the rule. The rule is now they have to show that it was a true group that got together to fight.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's probably where that was back then.
okay. I'm through, thank you, sir.
Okay.
I'm done.
So, anybody's guess if that's going on consent or not? Hello? Okay, speak up, speak up. All right. 8.05, approval of a sponsorship and sports medicine services with Willis Knight and Health System. I think that's pretty much a unanimous consent, I believe.
It's a no. It's a no. You got to know.
You got a no?
Ms. Green.
Okay. All right. Now, Ms. Bell has been waiting for a while to.
Right.
Okay, hang on then, Ms. Bell, we'll get to you in a minute. 13.01, there's nothing there. 13.02, those need to be handled in executive session, do they not? Okay, can't go on consent if everybody's in agreement. Okay, on 13.02?
Yes.
And 3 as well? Okay,
Yeah.
very good. Now, Ms. Bell,
Okay, I'd like to add an agenda item.
which
and
would be 8.06, I'm assuming?
8.06, that agenda item is going to say one-time back-to-school supplement for all full-time employees. I'm going to call it WBCF, Caddo, welcome back, now, WBCF, welcome back Caddo family. And my rationale is this: our employees, teachers, and staff are the best, and this is an opportunity for us to recognize all they've done and think. The reason I'm bringing this in is because of what we are going through and facing now. Inflation, gas prices, and all. And the one reason I'm going to say this, and I want to say to Dr. Vincent, Dr. Vincent brought this up some months ago, but it was to a jump start, I think, to start with certain group of people. Me and him talked last week, and I say, let's talk about that, but let's do it the way that everybody needs it, full-time. And we agreed, me and him both was on the phone talking about it, he's giving his input too. And what I'm doing is this. Things, every morning I'm looking at the news. DeSoto Parish got one of the best things, you come to our place, Natchitoches. We need to thank the ones who sticking with us. They are here. They can leave anytime. Everybody offering this and offering that. So I feel that we need to do something to let them know we care. Thank you for sticking with us. And I've talked to Dr. Gorey, and I told him I was gonna bring this here to bring it. And this is what I'm asking you, Dr. Gorey, to do. And I want y'all to hear me good and don't misunderstood the thing I'm saying. This, I want you to talk, get with your staff, Jeff and all, and research the funding costs and bring back a proposal of what we can do to give our employees. That because, look, I looked in the store yesterday. Our employees, they are spending money too. They have children also. And like I say, this is a one thing that's doing this time. And plus I went by one of the schools yesterday and looked in the classroom, a friend of mine. Her room is so pretty, but she didn't spend more than $200 in there. She spent, because she's happy and ready for the kids to come back. Then I was talking to one at the store at Walmart. This lady, a teacher, had 3 children. She was buying. All I'm saying is that we need to say thank you, sticking with us during this time. And I'm just asking you if you would ask your staff to look. And I did talk to some of my board members when I was thinking about this last week. And the thing that they said, I can go for it as long as it's not messing with any of the funding that's already been budgeted. So I'm praying, I pray, that we will find something to give them before. And I'm asking this also, I already got it laid out here, that we can, if I'm putting it on the agenda, I would like you, Dr. Gorey, the rest of it, to let me know, is it possible within the next week that we can find funding, put it on August 16th, we get it on the agenda to vote on, and give it to them in September. That way it can help with expenses that they've had to endure.
All right. One thing, Ms. Bell, if I can jump in and say, and I will appreciate that, Dr. Vincent did begin the conversation.
That's right, he did.
And as a result of that, one of our commitments to Dr. Vincent, he's, followed up with us, is that as we close out our budgetary year, we would continue to look to see if funds are available to do something such as what you're describing, even to also compensate or to address some of the issues that Dr. Vincent brought up. Staff has always felt those were important that we reward our employees in both situations. But again, we felt that we had to wait to at least see how we closed out our year. So again, certainly staff has been doing that, and we can look at that and see if there's something, some way we can bring something back. But
Yeah.
that's the commitment at this point.
Okay, that's, okay, appreciate it. And like I said, like I talked to Dr. Vincent, because he did bring it up. And all I'm saying is, please, and plus, when you show people that you care, they doing a good job, they do a double job, okay? So I think it's time now for, even with the inflation going on and all that, like I told somebody, if I had a gas well, I give every teacher, every employee a month of gas. But we know it ain't possible. But all I'm saying, let's do something. And like I still say, Mr. Howard, see if we can find something, Dr. Gorey, something that we can reward them with, say, thank you for sticking with us and coming back. Because I know 2 or 3 people jumped the ship and went other places. But I think that the full-time thing, you're sticking with us, you know, so. And any questions anybody need to ask me?
Just for clarification, Ms. Bell, are you suggesting a particular amount?
I'm not, I want them to find it.
Just making sure I understood.
Let me have y'all laughing about something. Mr. Howard, I was cleaning the closet out the other day. Guess what I found? An income tax check, state check that was dated when? And I wasn't rich. In 2001 for $200. I called the people to see if it still was good. So I'm saying, I'm thinking that you're gonna find me some money. I ain't prayed about it. Go look for it.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Mr. Rochelle, Mr. Ryle, you want to speak to this?
Just ask a question. Are you intending this for every employee of the Caddo Parish School?
Every full-time from the groundkeeper up. And the reason I'm saying that, we don't, as far as a new hire, they have not been here and they got something. I'm looking for our full-time people that come back to us. That includes everybody.
Is this basically the same thing that Dr. Vincent was asking for?
Dr. Vincent was asking for the ones who coming back to 8th grade, right? He was talking about, but I'm asking for everybody, high school and all, every employee.
Right.
And
What staff will do is we can bring it back in multiple ways. I even think when Dr. Vincent spoke, he did at some points
Yeah.
talk about everyone too. That came up too. But again, we'll bring this
Me and him
back.
together on it. We together.
Right, we will look, and again, we have to find the revenue first. And again, one thing, we've been, we're trying to move in a certain direction. So we'll make sure that we look to see if there's something we can do. But that's something we are committed to do as well.
Okay.
Because we would love to be able to reward our employees in September. I mean, because we know that they have invested a lot, and this has been a challenging time. One thing I think is important to note, though, and I think it fits into several conversations tonight, is that we're seeing this as a one-time thing, if I understand correctly.
One time.
So it's not a recurring cost.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ryle. Mr. Rochelle.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Gorey, you've said this, I don't know how many times, is if we're going to spend something, we have to figure out where to cut. And I think Mr. Little actually said something similar to that this evening. And I'll have to tell you, I'm all in favor in giving, as I stated earlier, and it's always going to be this way, is our employees are our real value. Again, as I stated earlier, that we have to figure out where we're going to cut. So I'm actually just going to make a suggestion, okay? Because I don't know what the count of the employees are going to be. I don't know if it's going to be, I don't know if you're asking for everybody to get the same amount. I'm not real sure where the line gets drawn, but maybe if it was presented for all those that qualify for what Ms. Bell is referring, is what would $50, what would be the total cost for that? What would $100? What would, and just do it incrementally so we can see, okay, well, if it's this amount, it's going to cost this amount. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to ask this, because we're talking about a one-time deal here, is going back to the ESSER funds, and I understand, and these are a windfall, and I know that we have those budgeted for particular things, is whether or not that's where we may be able to find funds if they qualify for the ESSER fund to be used. The, that's just, it really is, it's a ton of money.
Right.
And so anyway, that's a,
Right, one thing I'll tell you that has been consistent is our sales tax have been up. We're finishing up the year, and I think even if you look at how we funded some of our HEROES initiatives early on, it was through, not through ESSER, but through our increase in sales tax. So we too, and we have been, since the beginning of budget conversation, been committed to finding money in this space. So I'd ask that you let staff look at this, and we'll try and communicate something sooner than later if it's something that we feel we can do. And as you know, if we don't, we will come back and say as such too. Or we'll tell you what, make the difficult decision as to what has to be cut if we're to do this, if it's not an easy decision.
Okay. Mr. Trammell.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding. We're talking about a one-time supplement for full-time employees. That would be 5,000 plus people, right?
Right. So what I would say is that generally speaking, when we've done these things, we found them, if we, what you do to include the most people and to be consistent with amount has been very much appreciated. And again, I think that I would ask that we not put a lot of limitations that create phone calls from Ms. Green and other board members. I do think, and I think in this work, guys, let's face it, the work that Mr. Burden does versus a cafeteria worker does is equally as important as what we've gone through. So it's worked very well for us to be consistent with amount and not to start making those differences within our employee base. So that's the angle that we will look at that, and of course, we'll provide an opportunity for our board members to come back and make those suggestions as such. Ms. Bailey.
Okay.
I want to say this, I know somebody.
Excuse me.
I was going to ask that the same amount.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I just want to correct that.
Okay, all right.
Same amount.
All right. We're being consistent now. We just got through discussing this a few months ago, and it began to be such a, what it's gonna cost, where the money gonna come from, who's gonna take the fall, why are we doing this? I just want to make sure that when we adventure out to do this, this is not going to bite us in the back. Because you start talking about money, and then you find out that we needed this money some other place, and then we end up doing something else. I just want us to be clear, transparent from the beginning, so no one will be upset, or other people will be upset as it relates to how much money it's going to be. You give me $50, Ms. Bay, I might get mad. I'm talking about me, because I would think, well, why would we do that? And if we could wait till it's more money, then we can do it maybe a little bit further. It doesn't have to be, I think you're saying September. That means that it would be far less if we wait until October or whenever you see that other funds come in. So how do we do that?
Right, and the one thing I would say, and even in our conversations when we talked about this when Dr. Vinson's Fresh Start Initiative, it has always been about, let us see how we close the year out and see what those dollars look like. We are not at that point yet. It's any day now. They're in the process of closing books out now, so they should have a better estimate within the next week or so as to when that will be. And we've always communicated that if there is a pot of money that would possibly be logical to tap into this, it would be those revenues. So I would suggest that you let us look at the closeout and see where we are and see what we can do.
Okay.
But again,
I don't know what can be done, but this easy math tells you 5,000 employees at $500 a pop, that's $2.5 million right there. I mean, so.
All I'm saying is not 5,000 employees. Number two, I said full-time. I'm not talking about the ones who we just hired, and we did hire teachers, we did hire custodians, and all. I would like to know the number of full-time employees as of last year. I'm not saying that we have the 5,000. Secondly, I'm going to say this. I'm just, as I agree, we need to find out the ending of it, but I would like for us to do something to say thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for being here. And like I say, if we have to wait till October or wait till with a book, that's all I'm asking. That we need to do something to say thank you for sticking with us. That's all I'm asking for.
Okay.
And I'm not saying, and I'm also, Mr. Barry, I did not say cut never. I think if you heard me, I say money has already been budgeted. Mr. Howard, please find some that we contain that's not budget to take care of any situation. I'm so glad you stayed and everybody else know what I'm saying, okay? I didn't say nothing about cutting, nothing, okay?
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Dr. Benson?
Yes, sir. I'm going to be quick because I know we're all ready to get out of here. I think this is what defines people or separates people is passion. This is a great example to illustrate we all have passion for our people. I just want to thank staff for working through this. I think the main thing to highlight in my comments, and I'm out of here, is this money is, again, Mr. Rochelle, I need you. This money is basically through the sales tax, which just, again, is not really budgeted, so we're crossing our fingers that we all need to go out and spend so this can happen. I trust Mr. Howard, and I want to thank him publicly, I guess, because he came over and stood in Dr. Goree, and they committed to coming back to revisiting at this time. So we're right at the right time to do this. I was a little premature, maybe a month or so ago, so now is the right time to look at this, and I just wanted to highlight that. Yes, sir. And this is a great example of us working together, board and administration, and I'll conclude with we are Caddo. Let's get it done. Thank you.
Even still, I assume this is not going on consent, though, so.
No, but I want it on there for the
Okay.
agenda.
That being said, I would entertain a motion to approve our agenda and our consent agenda. Mr. Ryle.
Move to approve the proposed agenda and consent agenda for the August 16th, 2022 Caddo Parish School Board's meeting as presented.
Do I have a second?
No, it's gotta be.
It's got to be Ms. Bell.
Second?
Ms. Bell, seconded? All those in favor, please vote. Okay. Anybody of the audience wish to speak at this point? Jackie Lansdale.
Mr. Nations, she needs you to stop for a second.
Okay, okay. Give it just a moment, Ms. Lansdale, we'll tabulate our votes.
Yeah, let me, thank you.
Okay, very good. Jackie Lansdale,
Thank you
please.
so much. Jackie Lansdale, President of Red River United, 1726 Line Avenue, Shreveport, Louisiana. I rise to thank the board member Bell for bringing this and for the fact that Dr. Vincent had brought it earlier and for the other board members that are taking this in consideration. This will be huge as we look at a teacher shortage and we realize that from all over the state, and not only just the state, all over this country, from New Orleans actually purchasing homes to Bossier with a B-back check. Anything that we do here, I think, will be certainly welcomed and will certainly speak to the hearts and minds of the people that are coming back to serve the boys and girls. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Any board member announcements? Ms. Trammell.
Mr. President, I just wanted to say that we attended the regional convention in New Orleans, and the learning experience was really great. I learned a whole lot, had a chance to communicate with board members from the 3 regional areas here, and the things that we got to share with each other was very important. I would also like to thank the staff that works with Mr. Greer on the situation at Woodlawn. I see that you all are really working over there. It's looking great, and I thank you all for going at it. There was a little flood in the library, and no, not little. It was a huge flood in the library, so they are over there. As a matter of fact, even today, still working to do some repairs. And Ms. Bell, we're gonna work together. We're gonna figure this out, okay? All right, so no, I ain't asked you for no response, okay? All right, but, okay.
Thank you, Ms. Trammell. Ms. Green.
Yeah, the convention in New Orleans was probably one of the best ones that I've been to.
It was very good.
they had and I wish Caddo could take advantage of this. They had something called a poverty simulator. And they have it set up where they have different sections in this room, and they have a little family. You have jail, you have court, you have the unemployment office, you have a food, grocery store, and they're trying to survive. You've got everybody in this big room trying to survive, and they have you set up in families. If I tell you some people walked out of this place in tears because they finally got a chance to halfway understand how frustrating this was to figure some things out, it opened a lot of board members' eyes. And I wish, when we make these kind of decisions around this horseshoe, I wish some of you, some of us, could have some of this stuff in mind when we make decisions.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Mr. Rochelle.
Thank you, Mr. President. Had an open house meet and greet yesterday at University Elementary, which is the first time now that all parents just can come on campus now. And it was absolutely incredible. There are going to be 850, 900 students at University. And we have a Miss Atkins, who is a brand-new principal out there, who is a jewel, is that we were trying to estimate how many parents and students, the percentage-wise, and we kind of figured somewhere between close to 60, maybe even up to 75% of every single one of the students showed up with parents or guardians yesterday, which what a great sign. And you talk about excited kids. I'm telling you, these kids were excited. And that was really, really neat, and I'm excited for Miss Atkins at University this year. I'm looking that she's already got some great ideas. So, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Benson.
Very briefly, wanted to give a shout out to Chance, One Mindset Sylvie. This is a phenomenal young man. He did 3 school supply giveaways across 2 districts, Cherokee Park, Fair Park, and Booker T. Washington. He's written grants to get the supplies. He's just amazing. So wanted to thank him publicly and let the board know he's doing phenomenal work. And he's not a graduate of any of the schools. He's just wanting to give back. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Dozart.
Thank you, Mr. Nation. I know everyone probably have already heard about Bill Russell, who was a close friend of mine, and his family and my family were close. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dixon.
I'd like to give some kudos too. I was at a event well, 2 events Saturday, but one at Oak Park Elementary School, where this organization called Children of God, headed up by a gentleman named Andre Elias, coalesced that community over there to provide school supplies for the children over in the Moortown area. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge, I happen to serve on a board of a healthcare organization, nonprofit called Care South, that's moving into the area. They partner with gastrointestinal specialists, but they are based in Baton Rouge, and they just opened up a location in Shreveport, and they asked me to be a Shreveport representative, where they donated all of the school supplies for that event. So I'm grateful for their contribution and my ability to use resources to help those kids in the district in which I serve.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And also, finally, thank you, Dr. Goree, for meeting me at Walmart after that event with the United Way, which is another board that I serve on for the Fielder Bus that work with those schools in the Opportunity Zone.
Just a reminder, board members, summer graduation ceremony will be held Thursday evening at Caddo Magdon High School. I believe we've agreed on wearing our Navy shirts and khaki pants or something like that. So anyway, Ms. Bell.
I'd say also, I'd like to shout out to Devin Miles,
mother, the young man who got killed at Huntington, they gave out 500 backpacks. 500.
That's awesome.
And also they fed them hot dogs, everything. And keep them in your prayers because she's doing so much in the name of her son. So y'all just keep it. Plus, pray for me and my church. My pastor, Bishop Caldwell, he passed away, so the funeral is Friday. So please pray for us. Please pray for us. The Life Center. Life Center, 10 o'clock.
Now, Dr. Gorey.
Thank you very much. Board members, I would just remind you that you received your invitation to our in-person Ring the Bell ceremony to be held at South Highlands Elementary School this year. South Highlands is going to have a truly exciting year for a couple of reasons, but one of those reasons is that they're actually turning 100 years old. South Highlands, the building and Bird's building were actually, the construction began at the same time, but because South Highlands was an elementary school on a smaller site, it was completed and actually opened before Bird High School did. So really excited to be able to do an in-person open house there. Also want to reiterate that we are so excited that not only this year we're inviting parents back into our schools, but we're going to have our associations back in our schools. We're also looking forward to having our media back in our schools. I had an opportunity today to do our media luncheon, so I met with our media partners today and really rolled out some of the things that we can expect this year, and really looking forward to them helping us to continue to tell the story of all the great things that are taking place in our parish. So look forward to seeing you. Even though we're kicking off school tomorrow and we're opening school tomorrow, we're going to do the Ring the Bell next Wednesday on the 10th at 9 o'clock at South Highlands. So look forward to any of you that can be there to be at South Highlands. Thank you.
Absolutely. Mr. Ronald.
Move to adjourn.
Second, all those in favor can leave. If you're not, you can stay here. All right.
All righty. I'm here too. Yeah, I'm here too. Oh, and it's 5:45, okay.
I gotta get at 5:45.
That way we're ready for 6.